The night is as thick as ink, filling the sea of neon lights in the entire city. Qingyu rubbed his sore eyes and pulled out from the elevator on the company's building. The notebook computer in his backpack was still hot, like a girlfriend who was reluctant to break up. He is an ordinary office worker, 28 years old, and he types his code from morning to night every day. His salary is just enough to pay his rent and his mother's medicine. Working overtime until 10:30, this is his normal situation. He walked on the sidewalk with his feet dragging his feet, calculating in his brain how to make a fuss with his boss tomorrow. The heat on the street has not completely faded, and the roasted grilled cumin flavor on the road is mixed with the tail gas of the car, making Qingyu's stomach twitch slightly. He speeded up his pace and turned into a familiar narrow alley, which was his quickest, saving 20 minutes to get home. The road lights in the alley are dim and the walls are covered with dungs, and the air is filled with damp and musty smell. Suddenly, a low buzzer came forward, like a mobile phone vibrating 100 times. Qingyu felt nervous and stopped walking. "Damn it, all these amazing dogs roll out of my floor." A rough sound exploded, accompanied by the crispness of metal collision. Qingyu instinctively hid behind the trash can, and looked out and saw a chaotic war breaking out in the deep alley. Two figures flipped in the air. One man held a glowing dagger in his hand, shaking a blue arc. The other woman was surrounded by green vines, sucking the air like a living thing. The gun sounded. The scent was like a rainstorm, sparking when the wall hit the central wall, and the smell of burnt scent was filled with the air. Qingyu's brain buzzed and blank. This is not a movie, this is real. He wanted to run, but his legs seemed to be filled with a pen. The woman screamed, her shoulders were damaged by a dagger, and the green vines withered in an instant. She turned around and ran away, knocked down several trash cans, and the sound of the rolling wheels roared in the alley. The man sneered and chased after him. The dagger in his hand lit up a strange purple light. As the lackey of the group, the element control plan is not something you can touch. Qingyu's heart was beating wildly, and sweat slid down his back, sticking to his heart. He gritted his teeth and wanted to escape, but he stepped on a piece of broken glass, making a crisp sound of shattering. The man turned his head suddenly, his eyes locking him like a wolf. "Boy, shouldn't you see it? Chasing and killing." The man walked like a wind, and his dagger pointed directly at Qingyu's throat. Qingyu retreated in panic, flashing his mother's face in the sea. She was still waiting for him to make money in the hospital. Just as Zifu brushed his ears and the burning air smuggled his face, a strange heat flow swelled out of his body, like a current swelling his limbs and bones. His vision was blurry, his bones sounded Kara, and his body quickly retracted. The world is getting bigger? No, it's him that he's getting younger. Rat? The man was stunned, his gun facing the small figure on the ground. Qingyu looked down and saw that he had become a gray mouse, his claws nimbly grasping the ground, and his tail was swinging with strength. The inner self is as white as a flash. What is this? But his instinct drove him out, and Zifu exploded around him, and the gravel fell like rain. He drew into the gaps on the sewer and slashed Linfengyu, but he didn't even get any hair. A refreshing feeling surged in his heart. He has never been so flexible, sliding over the shadow like a wind, avoiding every blow. My heart beats like a drum, but it is a rhythm of excitement. The man cursed and chased after him, but Qingyu had already entered the secret corner deep in the alley. There is a half-closed iron door, and the lower voice is transmitted behind the door. He regained his human form and panted and heard it. Among the doormen, several men in black sat around, with maps and flashing crystals scattered on the table. First of all, the element control plan has been progressing smoothly. It will be able to overturn the government's energy department if it is detonated next week, a voice sank. Yes, that boy Hanlon's team has to get rid of their communication first. The other person echoed, laughing like night bark. Qingyu's heart sank. Overturn? What is this? He glanced at a silver circle on the table, engraved with runes and radiating glimmer. Opportunity. He took a deep breath and changed again, this time more smoothly, as natural as a muscle memory. He turned into a mouse and slapped his legs, his claws lightly, avoided the guardian line, picked up the circle and ran away. Behind him, he roared, "It's worth it." The journey of escape is like a mountain car. Qingyu is running wildly in the sewer, the water splashes are filled with a cold touch, and the nose is filled with a rotten smell. But he gritted his teeth and finally walked out of the alley and sat back on the road in a human form. The circle was slightly swelling in his hand. He put it on with trembling eyes, and his ears were buzzing. I detected the new user, in the link. "Hey! Who is listening?" Qingyu asked in a low voice, his heart twitching. "This thing will not explode, right?" The calm man voiced the opposite side. "Boy, who are you? How did you get my prep circle?" "I am Hanlon, a member of the alien agents." Qingyu was stunned and his brain moved quickly. "My name is Qingyu, just an ordinary office worker. I just witnessed a conflict in the alley. What element control plan did those people say to overthrow the government? I became a mouse and stole this and escaped." After a moment of silence, Hanlon's voice was shocked. "Change art? Boy, you are a natural awakener. A rare golden finger of transformation. Hearing, this is not a game. There are alien communities hidden in the city. We use circles, rings, and rings to control elements and transform bodies. The government and us are fighting against the genius groups. Those guys want to use aliens to overcome order, but ordinary people don't think it." Qingyu's brain was like a bulge, and the lights of the city and the fields suddenly became turquoise. Why am I? What about the people who chased me? They are Yubin's men, and the leader of the group controls the powerful elemental power. The plan you heard is true, and there will be big moves in the city center next week." Hanlon's ethos changed to strictness. "Boy, you have the potential. Changing your body is suitable for the mission of the community and can dive into enemy operations to get information. Our organization needs you." Qingyu held the ring tightly, and his ears were the city's car and mogul dragon. He heard the cry in his heart, "Mom, sister, in this city. I can't let them destroy it." From the perspective of a weak office worker, it was too crazy, but the heat flow was still moving inside, like a new life force. "Tell me how to use this. How to talk. I don't want to sit and wait." Hanlon smiled lightly, his voice as a friend. "Good. First of all, the circle is a communication tool that can connect allies and share positions at any time. Keep it low when changing, and your senses will be strengthened under the animal's condition. Hearing and smell are all turned into weapons. Intercourse skills 1, observe the environment and use shadows and noise to mask. Come, try to become a cat and practice potentially." Qingyu stood up and took a deep breath. He was flowing hotly around him, and he turned into a black cat with his claws on the ground, and the world became three-dimensional. The noise of the city is like a squirm, and the sirens from afar are hidden. Under the guidance of Hanlon, he climbed up the wall, opened his sight, and felt unprecedented confidence in his heart. From the shock of escaping to the current control, this transformation was like light and fire, making him feel that he was no longer the loser who struck the code. "Hanlon, I'll join." Qingyu returned to his human form and his voice was firm. "Protect your family and protect the city. Tell me, what's next?" In my ears, Hanlon's response stumbled on the hidden crisis of the city. "Go away from the pursuit first and we will meet. The slogan has just begun, boy, be ready to change." The wind rises at the entrance of the alley, Qingyu's shadow stretches and blends into the night. Far away, the guns were reconciled, indicating that a greater storm was about to come. The night wind blew the moisture from the remote harbor, blowing through the iron slam column and the wasteland area, and buzzing a low buzz. Qingyu followed the navigation sound of the circle, wandering in the shadows, his steps as light as if he was stepping on cotton. The alley battle just now was still in sight, and his palms remained warm as they changed. City lights are far behind. This industrial area is a mist of warehouses during the day, and the night becomes a secret point for the aliens. The smell of oil and damp cement was filled with the air, which made his nose slightly wings swing and looked around in a warning manner. "Boy, don't be sneaky and walk straight in." Hanlon's voice came out of the circle, with a smile. Qingyu pushed open a door that was disguised as a garbage can. It was a spacious basement with lights softly on the metal table, and a monitor screen was hanging on the wall, showing the real-time scenes of the city. Hanlon leaned on the chair, as he was 50 years old, with gray beards and Yang Li's eyes looking like a retired special soldier. There were several flash props beside him, a green ring, a silver ring, and a pile of files. Hanlon? Qingyu approached with panting, and the heat of the circle made him feel as if he was wearing a living thing. Is this place safe? Those guys who chase me will not follow me, right? Hanlon stood up and patted his shoulder. The force was not light or heavy, which made Qingyu feel a reliable warm current. Safe, here is the communication channel of the organization. The eye line of the group has not yet penetrated. Sit down, boy. From now on, you are one of us. We are officially welcome to join the Shadow, the special agent organization that specializes in fighting the threat of extraordinary energy. Your transformation technique is a rare gold finger, suitable for intercourse tasks. It is a great blessing for ordinary people to wake up. Qingyu sat down, the ice-cold touch of the chair swept into the denim pants, and he rubbed his sunny hole. I'm not a hero, just knock the code. My mother is still in the hospital and my sister is in college. I have to protect them. Tell me, what's going on? The elemental control plan sounds like a science fiction movie. Hanlon lit an electronic cigarette, and the blue smoke rose in the air, carrying the mint smell. He gave Qingyu a cup of hot coffee and steamed over the noodles. Simply put, there are extraordinary communities under the city. We use these props: circle communication, ring links, ring elements to maintain balance. Awaken, who wants to overturn order, use elemental power to control the weather, earthquakes, and so on, destroy the city. The government secretly supports us, and what you hear is their core plan. We have to cut off their claws before the downtown operation next week. Qingyu sipped the coffee, the bitterness brought sweetness, and the heart was alone. From office workers to agents, this was changing too quickly. But he pointed, okay, I'll join. How to start? Hanlon's eyes lit up, revealing the instructor's severity. Training, from now on. Changing your body is not a trick, you need to master various applications. First, from the foundation, control the shape and extend the time. Try to become a bird, and observe in the air. There are simulated enemies around the organization point, and practice dives. The basement door opens to a mock training ground, the scrap containers are stacked into a maze, the lights simulate the night, and the hidden sensors will contact the warning. Hanlon gave him a small book with a yellow page and full of runes. Connect me in circles and respond in reality. Go, a newbie. Qingyu took a deep breath and swelled up. He imagined the wings of the horned falcon, his body stretched out and his feathers spread out like silk. Successful transformation. The world was tilted, he flapped his wings, shouted and pulled his eyes high to the top of the container. The first time I flew, my balance was in a mess and almost hit the iron wall. Hanlon. This is too high, he shouted through the circle, his voice becoming sharp, like a bird. Still you. Use your tail feather to adjust it and look down and observe the bottom. Hanlon's guidance sounded as stable as a rock. Qingyu leaned down, his claws lightly at the container, and smelled and captured the hidden enemy, the sensor's red light flash. He circled around, avoided the laser network, and felt refreshingly free. This is not the boredom of going to work, this is flying. After several failures, he started to practice, gliding from clumsy to precision rotation, growing as natural as muscle stretching. Boy, it's good. The bird's shape is suitable for high-altitude information, and the cat is suitable for ground diving. Remember, the senses are strengthened when you change your body. You can predict the enemy by hearing the heartbeat and the smell of sweat. Hanlon pointed his head, and a piece of energy bar came over, which smelled metal when you chewed. Stay for 5 minutes and then move on to the battle. Ziqing has a thread. The door opened again, and a figure slipped in. Ziqing, a girl in her 20s, dyed purple short hair, wearing a wide-skinned robe, and her eyes were as bright as a fox. She is an underground intelligence boy, always carrying a stream of smoke from the street. Hanlon, boss. Did you hear the newbie? Hey, brother, I am Ziching, who sells the information. Your transformation technique sounds super cool. Qingyu smiled embarrassedly and wiped off the sweat. Thank you. What news do you have? Ziching leaned against the table, opened a piece of chewing gum, and the bubble smell spread out. Small enemy is in the old factory in the east. Yubin's men hid an element control blue picture, which can control the water element to cause floods. The guard is easy, but there are small boss-level men with the number iron claws, and the elemental force specializes in the control of metal. Diving into the trap, and fighting to speed up. Hanlon's anaconda, the risk is high. Are newbies doing it? Ziching glanced at Qingyu and smiled cunningly. He has the potential. Oh, by the way, the group has a mysterious girl, Lina. She holds an exchange ring and can share her mind and connect and share her vision. The family has been destroyed by Yubin, and now she is specializing in pursuing the truth. I heard that she has a deep background and is an extraordinary girl. You will meet her sooner, Qingyu. Curious? She is not a vase. Qingyu's heart was moved. Lina? Shared video sounds like a superpowered file. His brain flashed through the scene. A girl stretched out her hand in the darkness, and felt her heart alone. Maybe, she understood my fear. It's so terrible. Why haven't you seen it yet? She is carrying out another mission. We will contact you later. Ziching blinked. Be careful about your first show first. The painting is in the insurance cabinet of the second floor of the factory, guarding the 5 people. Go, hero. The night was deeper, and the old factory in the east was standing like a giant beast. The slurry smoke spit out the smudge of smoke. The air was filled with the pungent smell of chemicals and the squirrel of the far train. Qingyu wore a circle and turned into a black cat, and his hair melted like the night. The claws stepped onto the wall without sound, smelling the smell of smoke and sweat from the guardian. He walked down, gliding along the shadows, avoiding the patrol lights shooting. The pleasure came. As soon as the guard turned around, he put on the shelf, swung his tail lightly, opened a piece of loose iron leather, and diamonded into the wind tube. It was as hot as a steamed pot, and the dust was sniffing, but he twisted his body flexibly and heard his heartbeat. The second floor was approaching. The picture is in the east room. Hanlon's voice was low. Qingyu rushed out of the winding vent, and fell to the ground without sound, and his claws grabbed the ground like a buckle. In the room, the insurance cabinet was flashing with red lights, and the 2 guards chatted. The plan was smooth. On the downtown, when the flood came, the government's Ministry of Ability was finished. Opportunity. Qingyu put his teeth on the table, biting the key with his teeth. No, the change of body surgery makes his brain flash. He used his claws to lock the password and circled the pencil. The picture is obtained, the blue paper is covered with ice, and the paintings are filled with runes and elements. Readily. He held his arms towards the windowsill, shouting and shouting as he walked out, and the police behind him said, "Is there any money? Cat?" Escape was like electricity. Qingyu flipped in the container, and his claws scraped the iron and emitted a slight spark. Guanwei's steps were like thunder. He heard the sound of the gun, and Zifu rubbed his hair, burning the heat and burning his tail. But he turned into the wall, landed and returned to his human form, and ran into the night. A full sense of growth. From a novice to this tide, this is his first victory. Turning and braking. There are several silhouettes on the road outside the factory, and the head is the iron claw of the slab. The 2 hands are like claws, and the flash metal is light. Boy, keep the picture. Yubin, the leader, took your life. He shook his hand, and the metal fragments shot towards him like flying swords, and the sound of breaking through the air was harsh. Qingyu's heart beats like a drum, and he can't retreat. I feel alone in my heart. I can't die. This is the beginning. He pressed the circle. Hanlon. Hood. The subordinates of the Iron Claw, 5 people, elemental metal attack. Cold. Change your birds and open the distance in the air. I will guide you from a distance, flap your wings and stir up their visual lines. Keep the pictures well hidden, and smoke the smoke, it's in your waist bag. Hanlon's voice was rapid and stable. Qingyu turned around and slapped his wings and took off, and held the pictures in his claws tightly. The iron claws jumped up, the clasped claws grabbed the air, and the fragments fell like rain. The wings swayed, and the air flowed out of the air, squeezing the dust in the alley, and the coughing in the vision was blurred. Now, bend down and peck your eyes. The circle increases your speed. Hanlon shouted. Qingyu leaned down, his paws rolled over his iron claws and his shoulders, and the smell of blood spread, and the man roared backwards. The other guards opened their guns, and Z was arcing in the night sky, but he was already taller, and there was a pleasure of freedom in the wind. The crisis resolved, he landed far away, recovered from his human form, panting and leaning against the wall. Hanlon, thank you. I did. Good kid. I've got it done. Back to the base, Ziqing will handle the pictures. Remember, the team is the key. Li Na's crocodile can let you share the crisis. She may join the next mission. Qingyu held the paper tightly, and the city light flashed in front of his eyes, and a warm current surged in his heart. From panic to control, this transformation made him feel that power was growing. Outside the alley, the Iron Claw's curse is coming, but the bigger sacred is waiting for them to dismantle. The air in the basement still retains the bitter aroma of coffee and the metal smell of energy bars, and the remaining screen of the East District factory is flashed on the screen. Qingyu leaned against the chair, his chest fluctuated, and the pictures were spread on the table, like a blue spider net. Dense runes outlined the path of the elemental flow. He wiped off his sweat and felt as if he was alone in his heart. From office workers to the stolen documents, it was all too fast. But the pleasure of striking the iron claws made him feel that the power took root in his body. Boy, are you breathing? This picture is the key. Hanlon approached, and his rough fingers pointed a rune, and the light reflected on his gray beard. The core of the elemental control plan: use water elements to trigger floods in the city center, flooding the government's animate departments. Yubin's men rely on these props to amplify their power. We're trying to stop their supply chain. Qingyu pointed at the head, and the sound was still gasping. The metal claws of the iron claws almost tore me. Next time I will have to hold them longer. The time is too short, and my legs will be soft when I restored my human form. He rubbed his shoulders, his muscles were sore and burned, reminding him that he was still a novice. The pain of growth made him more eager to become stronger, not for pleasure, but for his mother's hospital bed and for the city's lights to remain calm. The door squeaked and Ziqing came in, carrying a bag of street snacks in her hand, and the aroma of hot buns instantly spread out. She shook off her coat, revealing the tattoo inside, and her eyes narrowed into a slim, "Boss, newbie, congratulations on the victory of the first battle." I glanced at the picture. Awesome. Yubin's plan not only floods, but also fire elements mixed in, burning the evidence. Hanlon's eyebrows took a bite of a bun and steamed mouth. Tell me the point, Ziqing. Do you have a new line on your information network? Ziqing chewed the gum, and the bubble burst with a crackling sound, and the sound was crisp. She took out a photo from her backpack and threw it on the table, blurry black and white images, a burning mansion, next to it was a news clip. This is the old case 5 years ago, Li Na's family's old house. Yubin took action and burned the entire garden, saying it was a cleaning of an alien traitor. But I dug into the inside story. Li Na's father is a high level in the front organization and holds a prototype of the exchange gang. He found that the prototype file of the element plan was cut by Yubin. The cable pointed to the underground auction tonight's Southeast District Blank Drop Academy, where they were selling element props, including an upgraded version that could connect gangs. Qingyu's heart sank, and the blurred figure of the girl in the photo made him think of the extraordinary girl Ziqing described. The tight feeling of the exchange of information is like a slightest. This is not just a task, it is about exposing the old wound. Li Na, how much does she know? Why did the family get destroyed? Ziqing was swaying with her shoulders, her eyes flashed with sympathy. She survived, but there was a ghost in her heart. The auction will be a breakthrough. If you dive into it, you can connect with her. Be careful, guard too much, and have a lot of traps. Qingyu, are you going? Hanlon slammed the table. He's going. I'll support you all the time. Qingyu, train first. Your weakness is to keep going for a while, and you'll get rid of it in 5 minutes. Go to the simulation venue and practice the wolf dog shape, strong endurance, suitable for long-term potential. The lights at the training ground were dimmed, simulating the night color like ink, and the wind in the container blew out a cool wind, scenting the odor of iron. Qingyu took a deep breath and was storming. He imagined the wolf dog's strong body, stretched its bones and hair pierced out like a pinch. Successful transformation. Limbs on all sides, the world is getting lower, and the smell is like thunder, and every mouthful of air is full of detail, the smell of smoke from Hanlon, the smell of rats from far away. He ran wildly into the container, his claws gripped the ground and emitted a whirlpool, his speed was like a wind, and his physical strength was like an hourglass passing. Still. Imagine the energy cycle, and the circle helps you to lock it. Hanlon's voice sounded from his ears, like a memorial to calm his mind. Qingyu gritted his teeth and said nothing in his heart. Weakness? When I was at work, I couldn't even work overtime, so I had to continue to be the truth. Li Na's family, the city's crisis, cannot be wiped out halfway. He ran around the circle, and the time went from 5 minutes to 8 minutes, saliva dripped from the tip of his tongue. When he returned to his human form, he knelt down and gasped, but his eyes were fixed. Hanlon, I feel it. It's not about force, it's about control. I won't retreat if I reveal this slander. Good boy. After resting for half an hour, the auction will open at 8 o'clock. The wolf dog will enter. The goal, the auction list will be related to any Li Na. Hanlon came to the water tank, and the cold water dripped down his throat, and the ice sank relieved his fatigue. The night falls, and the deserted courtyard in the southeastern area stands like a ghost, with vines creeping in the outer wall, and the wind blows through it and rusts. Qingyu was wearing a black zipper, with a circle hidden in the mouth, slipping into the side door. The air is filled with musty smell and hidden perfume, and the staircase extends downwards and leads to the ground. Transformed into a wolf dog. The body is stretched, the claws are soundless, and the nose captures the human body smell, sweat, smoke, and excited hormones. The auction hall was hot, and the black market buyers wore masks. The lights were dimly lit on the glass cabinet, with flashing props inside, green croakers twisting like live snakes, and silver rings radiating fire. He wandered under the table, his tail low, avoiding the waiter's footsteps. On the stage, the auctioneer said with a high pitch, "Next. Elemental crystal cloth, which can control small floods, and starts at 500,000. The following verse, the goods from Yuebin Group are pure and upright." Qingyu's ears raised, and he smelled a corner. Several guards surrounded a wooden box, with an upgraded version of the exchange ring engraved with runes from the Li Na family. The information is like a flash. This is a thread. He approached quietly, his claws slid around the box, and recorded details in his brain. Suddenly, his footsteps were in a mess, and a buyer said, "There is an unusual dog smell." The iron claw said, "Set a trap." Qingyu felt nervous and realized that he was hidden under the floor. The red light was hidden. Shun turned around and his gun was facing under the table. "Come out, little beast." Zifu rubbed his hair, burning heat and breathing his ears. He pulled out and stepped on the net. The current was like a sting inside the body, and the body almost collapsed. Crisis. Inner heart, don't panic, what about the results of training? He put on the table, pushed down the wine glass, and the glass shattered and sounded in chaos. The buyer screamed everywhere, guarding the fire, and his sun was as bright as rain. The excitement is bursting. Qingyu is swept wildly, turning into a raptor or roar. The wings spread out, the world raised, and his plate spiraled at the top of the hall, and his claws were like a mat. Fall down. The first claw hits the communication equipment, sparks are 4 times, the burnt smell of the broken wires spreads, and the guarding wireless power is silent for a moment. "Don't die, the communication is out," a guard shouted. The sky burst into the air like a flash of electricity. Qingyu's second will was leaning down, pecking at another equipment, and the debris fell like rain. He flapped his wings and slammed his claws, and his eyes blurred his claws over the shoulders of the three people. Blood was sprayed, and pain was heard. The pleasure is like a current swelling. It is not a matter of trouble, it is precise. The continuous training time made him hold on, and 8 minutes would be like eternal. He destroyed the last one, and the hall turned into a porridge, and the buyer fled and scattered. But the pursuers rushed over, 5 guards surrounded him, and the claws were flashing metal. Catch him! The leader is going to live! The leader roared. Qingyu's wings were tired, and the current wave made him sway in the wild. He returned to his human form when he landed, and retreated. Weakness exposure, lasting for too long, overdrawing of strength. I feel confident in my heart, the truth is close, I can't fall. Just as the claws were grabbing, a figure flashed from the side of the girl. Her long hair is like a waterfall, her eyes are like stars, and her green neck is flickered. She is Li Na. Qingyu? The transformer of Hanlon's words. Her voice was crisp and anxious, and the green light shone on her neck when she started. Who, you? Qingyu gasped. Zifu rubbed his shoulders, and put on his clothes with blood. Li Na approached, grabbed his hand, touched the ring, and was as hot as a bridge beam. Spiritual connection is established. In an instant, Qingyu felt her vision. She saw the blind spots of guarding the body, and shared the information like an electric wave rushing into the brain. I am Li Na, come with me. The shared vision of the elbow. There is a secret passage on the left, I'll cover it up. Her inner self was exposed. Finally, she found an allies. This kid has a familiar stubbornness. The first interaction was like a spark. Qingyu held her hand tightly and felt warm as if she was rescued. Thank you. Why use this link? He asked back and his conversation was filled with guns. Concentrate your thoughts and look at my eyes. Share your senses. I hear your sweat, you hear my heartbeat. Li Na smiled, short and warm, and she moved her hands. She shook her hand and summoned the green vines to stop the 2 guards. The vines whipped like whips, and the guards fell down and turned their backs. The family's old case begins with this auction. Yubin destroyed my family, and this picture is a proof. The news exchange was tight and Zhang Ru's heartbeat. Qingyu's brain flashed her vision. There was a trap at the entrance of the secret passage, and she guided him to walk. During the sharing, he felt her wits and turned his heart. No longer alone, this girl understands his fear. Li Na, family affairs. Let's reveal them together. They walked into the secret, and the harsh sound of the claws behind them scraping the wall was far away. Li Na was relaxed, but the connection was still there. She turned her head, and the moonlight came from the crack, illuminating her face. The first time I met, it was so exciting. Hanlon said that you have become a hero from a weak chicken. I will show you. Qingyu smiled, and his strength recovered. Certificate? What's the air show just now? But I still have to practice. Your troll saved me. The secret passage was as night street as the wind blew the smell of the harbor, and they ran on their shoulders. Ziqing's line connects to Li Na's old case, and the wheels of the elemental plan are clearer. But Yubin's shadow was like a cloud-like pressure. Qingyu clamped his fists, and the growing fire of the sky was rising. The truth is no longer far away. Far away, the theater's police report was hinted, indicating the next storm. The neon lights on the night street were like a continuous struggle, reflecting on Qingyu and Li Na's faces. They gasped and turned into an uninhabited alley, backing against the cold brick wall. The air still has the musty smell and smoke from the basement of the theater, and the low sirens from the far away are like the hidden heartbeat of the city. Qingyu's shoulders were intimately painful, and the current wave just now made the muscles twitch, but he clenched his fists and locked Li Na's eyes. The green collar on her neck glowed slightly, like a living green snake, moving the bridge connecting them. The connection is still there. Li Na said softly, her eyes looking at him like stars in the night. Her long hair was scattered and covered with a few gray dusts. There was a long scar on her face, extending from the root of her ear to her chin, hidden in the lights, like a mark left by the old war fire. Concentrate your mind and try to share more. It's not vision, it's reminder. Qingyu pointed his head and felt nervous. The heat of the circles and rings flowed into the brain like a tide. He closed his eyes and felt her thoughts spread out like a painting. The picture is flashed, a mansion 5 years ago, with bright lights and laughter. Lina is still a girl, and her father gave her a green croaker. Nana, this is the family's exchange, which can connect people's hearts and share power. But remember, the anomaly is a double-blade sword. Then, the flames swallowed everything. Yubin's group entered, the elemental fireball was like a stone, and his father shouted, "The plan has been destroyed. They are going to overthrow the city." Lina was protected by the vines and escaped from the sea of fire, but when she turned around, her home was turned into dust. The arrival of the scar appears, a flying flint plotted across her face, and the pain was like an eternal reminder. Reminiscing like a knife, Qingyu's brain also made his own picture, the mother in the hospital, her white face, and her sister's phone call. "Brother, is it money?" He said in his heart that he was unfair. It turns out that she was also burdened with everything. Not a hero, but an ordinary person like me, forced to fight. Lina. I'm sorry. I saw it. Did your dad find the prototype of the elemental plan? If Yubin destroys your family, is it the slaughter? Lina's eyes were slight, and the scar turned slightly white under the light. She touched her neck, and her voice was shaking with a trembling sound. Yes. Their elemental control is not only floods, but also wants to control people's hearts, using props to wash the brains of politicians and overturn order. Dad was a high level in front of the organization, stole the core data, and was threatened by Yubin. That night, the fire element swallowed the family and I survived, but the family was gone. This scar is my ticket. Qingyu, what about you? Why did you join? Not for pleasure, but for whom? Qingyu swallowed his saliva, and the shared warmth made him open his heart. Mom is seriously ill, and my sister depends on me to take care of her. If the city is in trouble, what will they do? From witnessing the war in the alley to now, I have changed. Your memory makes me understand. It is not a fight for one person. We protect this city, not a heroic dream, but a responsibility. His determination was ignited, and his eyes turned from the silence to the prophet. The growth of the trunk is clear, from the weak chicken who escapes to the current partner. This link is not only power, but also a trunk. The circle of buzzing, Hanlon's voice intervenes. Boys, listen. Ziqing's story confirms that the auction list includes the medium-sized enemy position, the old code warehouse in the North District, where Yubin's element database is. Core data, the control code of the flood detonation, can scoop up the city center defense. Mission upgrade, dive into the trap. Qingyu, your fox shape is suitable for cunning and potential. Lina, elemental helps to crack. Ziqing supplement, there is a back door trap in the warehouse, avoiding the east side patrol. I coordinated with the support, and it will be in 10 minutes. Lina clicked her head, and her smile under her scar was like ice untied. Let's go. Share the link, I will help you see the wild and cover the vines. They stood up, the night wind blew into the harbor's fishy smell, and the silhouette of the code area was hidden in the fog. Qingyu took a deep breath, flowed hotly, and transformed into a fox. His body was narrow, his hair was red and red like fire, and his claws were as light as shadows. The world became low and agile, sniffing the fishy and oily smell of the code, and ears sniffing the low words of the guardian. The database has been reinforced, and the little boss's shadow blade guards himself. As he dived into the road like a fox walking on the night, Qingyu slid along the gap in the container, and his tail was low and he shook the dust. Lina followed, and the green light was hidden. She whispered, turn right, share my vision, there is a red external feeling. Qingyu added her picture in her brain, the hot image is like a net, he was so clawed, his paws were silent. The refreshing sense of freedom came, the fox's cunning made him judge every step, avoiding the laser network, and sniffing the electronic smell of the data room from his nose. At the depth of the warehouse, there are 3 guards in front of the data room door, and the iron door is locked with a digital lock. Li Na approached, and the vines extended from her fingertips, like a green silk slid into the lock core. Element helps, cracking. Concentrates, share my touch, the number is 739. Qingyu's claws were swaying, and the heat of the horn turned like a key, and the lock click opened with a sound. Inside the door, the server is humming, the blue light is filled with the screen, and the core data flows like a waterfall. He put his teeth on the table, biting his U-plate. No, the change of body surgery made his brain record. Download. Li Na pressed his hand onto his circle, and the green vines were connected like electric cables, and the data flowed in like a torrent, doubled their speed. It's done! I got the data. Li Na shouted in a low voice, her voice filled with joy. Qingyu held the chip for the preparation and pointed it to the windowsill. The excitement was bursting. He shook his tail and ignited his waste bag, a prop given by Hanlon. With a bang, the green smoke spread like a dragon. Guanwei coughed everywhere. What the hell? Warning! In a mess, they pulled out of the back door, and the smoke covered the sky, and Ziyao shot and wiped the air. Qingyu returned to his human form, and his breath was rapid and excited. Li Na, this cooperation is invincible. Your vine rescues the scene. But the turn and break out. In the smoke outside the valley, a black shadow flashed, a small boss shadow blade, a tall and thin man. His hands were like a blade, wrapped in dark elements, and the air was twisted like a ripples. He sneered, change fox? The lord who exchanged the horns. Stay behind, the things that you've been leads are not something you can touch. Shadow blade swept his hand, and the dark blade came like an invisible knife. The roar of cutting the air was harsh, and it broke Qingyu's clamp, and the hot blood was blown out. Li Na screamed, and the green vine whipped was swallowed by the dark element. Qingyu, retreat. He controls the shadow, the elements are special. In the shared link, her fear was like a sound. This is the shadow power of the dying family that year. Qingyu's heart sank, his wounded and burned, but his heart was silent. I can't fall. The moment of growth, the continuous training and the sharing of connections made him feel the fusion of heat flow and green light in his body. First try, changing one's body is not just about form, it is about borrowing strength. He growled, and the heat flowed wildly. When he turned into a fox, he injected the element of Li Na, the red fox with hair and green vines, and his claws were like blades in green light. Successfully integrated. The world has become three-dimensional, and the shadow is as touching as a real body. He slashes out, and the fox claws striking over the shadow blade's dark net, and the green vines burst like firecrackers, tearing open the defense. Refreshing back as if it were. Ingbian was stunned. What? Change the body and melt the elements? Qingyu lifted up, threw his tail out of the vine net, slammed Ingbian's legs, and his claws straight into his throat. The man slammed, and the dark blade backlash was dissolved by the green light. He roared and fell to the ground. Impossible, you are this new guy. Fight! Qingyu regained his human form, kneeling down and breathing. The fusion of waves made him blurry in his vision, but his sense of power was like a tide, from a simple transformation to a leverage his partner. This is an improvement. Li Na helped him up, her eyes under the scars flashed. You did it. Dad's thorn has never been used like this. Qingyu, thank you. Her hands were warm, and the hidden scar stories were shared by the scars were like a dead end. She climbed out of the sea of fire and vowed to revenge. Now, this fusion is her salvation. As the circle started, Hanlon hurriedly said, fuck well. The backup arrived, and the two cars closed the exit. Ziqing added, the shadow blade fell, but the warehouse had a self-destructive device. The data warehouse exploded in 5 minutes. Retreat quickly, avoid the ambush on the north side. Yu Bin's men were in reinforcements. Ziqing's voice kept up, and the slang words in the streets were, brother beautiful, love profile upgrade. In self-destruction, you will release elemental poisonous fogs and inhale the fog. Go to the sewer on the south side. I have a map to share. Qingyu clicked and pulled Li Na to run wildly. The explosion in the fog was like thunder, and the poisonous fog was thrown away by them. The entrance to the sewer on the south side is smooth and smelly, but the shared vision allows them to avoid landslides. Running out of the code, Hanlon's car lights flashed like a savior. They jumped onto the car, and their tires rubbed against the sharp edges on the ground to break through the night sky. Qingyu leaned against the seat, with the chip in his hand, and a warm current surged in his heart, the connection of emotions, making the battle no longer alone. Li Na shook his hand and said in a whisper, "The truth is close. Yubin's plan, let's break it together." The car drove into the night, and the city's lights extended in front, but the shadow of the crisis was like a tide, quietly approaching. The car was flying in the night, the tires were rolled over the water and emitted a sound of water. The neon lights in the city were like meteors planing through the car window. Qingyu leaned against the back seat, holding the data chip in his palm, and the touch of Bingwei seemed to remind him of the crazy just now. Li Na sat next to her, her green rings slightly moving, and the sharing link made him feel her fatigue, the old wounds that crawled out of the sea of fire, now mixed with the remaining energy. Hanlon opened the car in the front seat, fogging the smoke. Ziqing was in the secondary, and he was silent on the phone to confirm with the information network. Yes, the shadow blade fell, but Yubin would not be good at silence. The data was transferred back to the base and analyze it immediately. Boys, they're pretty fucked. Hanlon glanced through the mirror, and his voice was very praiseworthy. This chip is a gold mine, and the element database has their timetable. Next week's downtown operation, floods and fire elements are mixed, not simply flooding, but rather storm of elemental storm, damaging the entire energy defense line. Ordinary people will think it's a disaster, and we have to cut off the roots first. Qingyu rubbed his shoulders, heard his mouth and felt implicitly, and his heart was as innocent as a tide. From stealing pictures to this point, his strength is still strong, but his responsibility is heavy. He turned to look at Li Na. Your vine saved the scene. When I connected, I felt your horror. The shadow blade's shadow power is like that night of your house. Li Na pointed her head, and the scar pulled a shadow under the lights of the car. She held his hand, warm as green vines, and said, "Yes. But with you, I feel that I am not alone for the first time. My dad's croaker, which is inherited by the family, has now become our weapon. Qingyu, what about you? The days of office workers, now look back, it looks like a dream?" He smiled, and her eyes opened his eyes during the sharing. Dream? It's a nightmare that turns into a hero. Mom's disease, the city's lights. I've gone from protecting myself to now wanting to protect more people. The car turned into the underground car, the engine sounded abruptly, and the air was filled with oil and moisture. When they got off the car, Ziqing led his head into the base. The screen had already lit up, and the data was like a waterfall. The basement lights were dazzling. Hanlon knocked on the keyboard, and the blue light reflected on his face. Look at this. Yubin's layout. Under the urban center, there is an elemental core, a mixed device, which can release the flow of 4 elements, fire, water and soil, and cause earthquakes and floods. The initial layout will be launched tonight, and the enemy will gather props in the high tower in the west. Organizing orders, high-risk inspection, Qingyu leads team. You can change your body and move in the air and dive. Li Na helps internal vision, and Ziqing's information support. I will communicate later. Qingyu was nervous and led a team. From Xindian to this, the pressure is as strong as a mountain. But he stood up straight. Okay. Can't let them start. How to detect? Ziqing chewed gum, bubbled and slapped it, and slapped a small device. The tracker is the size of a claw. If you implant your car, you can monitor it in time. The tower in the west is a medium-sized enemy, guarding it strictly, and scanning the internet. Be careful, innocent and powerful people may be caught there to be a force. The group will strengthen newcomers and use them to clean their brains. Li Na's eyebrows, green flickering. Dad also mentioned that year that they can capture the secrets and extract potential. Qingyu, can we save people? He hesitated for a moment, and his heart slammed. Self-protection is instinct, but Li Na's eyes looked like a mirror, reflecting his weakness. Growing turns like electric light, not just for family members, but for ordinary people behind each light. Save. Chaga rescue. The team is walking. The night wind blows. The tall tower in the western area stands like a giant iron beast, and the top of the tower is red and lights, like the eyes of a devil. Qingyu and the other two were wandering in the shadow of the tower foundation, mixing the smell of industrial waste and sea wind in the air. Li Na approached him and said in a low voice, "The connection is opened. My horns can explore the inside, concentrate and feel my vision. The heat flows in, and the screen is added in the middle of the brain, the warehouse inside the tower. The iron tube is surrounded by more than a dozen young and animated people, with white faces and a circle of red lights on the neck." Yu Bin's men were distributing props, and the box was filled with flash elemental crystals. "Layout starts. Go to the center tomorrow, let the mess." "Hanlon, have you heard it?" Qingyu said softly, buzzing in circles. "There are prisoners in the tower, and the initial layout is a fleet. Surveillance in the air, I'll get on." "Received, boy." The Horned Falcon is in a state of shape, overlooking the whole picture. "I avoid the top of the tower, and I share the map." Hanlon's voice was as stable as a rock. Qingyu took a deep breath, and the heat exploded, his body stretched out, and his feathers spread out like a knife. He flapped his wings and took off. The world was tilted, and his vision was raised to the top of the tower. The sound was like thunder, and the whole picture of the tower under the night sky was as clear as possible. The parking lot on the east side, 10 trucks were loading boxes, and patrol lights were shooting. A refreshing look at the feeling of being overwhelmed, from the ground to the king of the sky. This transformation makes him feel controlled by the overall situation. On the east side of the car, marking the tracking points. He reported through the circle, and his voice was as sharp as a bird. Li Na's link added, "The inner vision, the head car has core crystal. The prisoners are on the second underground floor, guarding them easily. They are busy with the layout." Ziqing's voice intervenes, in the slang of the streets. "Report update, 3 teams of patrol teams, the east gate is weak. But there are scanners on the foundation of the tower, and animals will be caught. The shape of the worm is penetrated and implanted." Qingyu's plate spiraled down, flapping its wings to avoid the light, and landing on the grass on the base of the tower. Regaining his human form, sweat slipped down. He said to Li Na, "You cover it up, I dive in. The links are separated, telling me the blindness." Li Na pointed her head, and the green vines extended from her fingertips, covering them like a hidden net. "Go. Your growth, I see it." The heat flowed again. Qingyu imagined the cockroach's skull. His body quickly retracted, his touch corners extended, and his shell was as hard as a steel. The world has become giant, with grass leaves like forests and ground cracks like clouds. Sensory strangeness of the horn shape, the touch angle perceives vibration, the viewing is multi-angle, and the smell captures the smell of metal and sweat. He climbed up the wall of the tower, hooked his claws to avoid the shock of his patrol footsteps. The cool thing is coming. The scanner's red light swipes over, and he flattened his wall, slid without sound, like a ghost. "I feel so low. I hide from the boss when I go to work, and now I hide from the thunder. This transformation is my obscene clothes." The east side car is approaching, and the car engine is low when the guard chats. The leader of Yu Bin said that the sender will be released tomorrow, and the elements will be mixed up, and the city will be in trouble. Those prisoners will be squeezed and thrown away. Qingyu put on the bottom plate of the head car, and the body was flexibly diamonded into the exhaust pipe, and the heat waves were roasted like fire, but he gritted his teeth and held on. The tube was warm and the oily smelled pungent. He climbed to the engine and found the location, a metal box. Claws, no, touching the corners, the tracker is implanted, and the click is fixed with one click. Success. Circle feedback, the implantation is completed and the actual monitoring is started. The team movement is all in control. The monitor screen rushes into the brain, the crystal stones in the car are flickered, and the route is directly aimed at the central building. Refreshing as electric, from being chased to being killed, now taking the initiative to attack. This is his transformation. Li Na's voice sounded in the link. "Qingyu, underground prisoners are static. A girl is about to escape, and the guard discovered it. Moral dilemma is thunderous. I have finished implanting, should I withdraw it?" But the girl's crying voice came through the links, like the voice of her sister. Qingyu's inner thoughts, It is easy to protect himself, but the fire of heroism has burned out, protecting the city, starting with saving one person. He whispered, Lina, plan to save people. Ziqing, patrol team information? Ziqing was quick, 2 groups of dongmen, 5 people. The risk of conflict is high, but it can attract the warning from the top of the tower. Move! Qingyu rushed out of the bottom of the car, regaining the fox's shape, and his red hair was flickered. He surrounded the wall, and his claws gripped the floor and made a fine squirt. Lina followed, the green vine was like a whip. I inspire you, you burst. She whispered, and her trust and sharing was like a warm current. A small-scale conflict broke out. Qingyu ran out of the east gate, the fox howled, and turned his head. Wild bamboo? Turn on the fire. Z was soaking like rain. After he flicked the cabinet, he blew his tail and fogged, bang. Green smoke spread and coughs were everywhere. Lina rushed out, and the vines snatched the 2 people, whipping them. Qingyu, blind spot on the left. The shared vision made him judge. He slapped the fox claws over one person's shoulder, and the smell of blood spread. The refreshing collaboration is like a dance. Lina's vine pulls the distance, his claws hit the gun, and when the 5th man lifts the blade, the fusion reappears. The fox body is green and the claws are like blades to break the weapon. The patrol team was defeated, and the guard fell to the ground and groaned, report, invasion. But the smoke blocked the communication. Qingyu returned to his human form and gasped and opened the underground door. Girls, come with us. The organization will protect you. The prisoner rushed out, and more than 10 people's eyes were shocked. A girl hugged him. Thank you, they forced us to recharge props. Lina helped the boy up, and her smile was gentle under the scars. Let's go, the car is outside. We will report my grudges together. The team collaborated like a choking wheel. Ziqing's story leads the way, Hanlon communication covers it. They kept the prisoners out of the tower base, and their steps were in a messy and orderly manner in the night wind. A midterm crisis suddenly occurred. The tower police report was a big hit. Red light was like blood, and the fortress at the top of the tower turned. Pursuits escape. Seal the eastern area. ZN was raining and sparks rose on the ground. An element exploded, and the fire element came like a dragon rolling, making the waves burning. Qingyu pushed a girl out, her shoulders were swollen, and the pain was burning like fire. Lina, cover them up and retreat. Hanlon, back up. Sure, boy. Change your bird and open the distance. Hanlon shouted. Lina green vine wall, holding her tongue. Qingyu, your choice, hero is here. Connect me, share the pain, divide it. The heat flow merged, and he felt her impulse injected, and the pain was reduced in half. He turned into a keel, grabbed 2 prisoners with his claws and took off, and his wings flapping his wind to suppress the fire. Below, Lina's Vanguard team, Ziqing opened the road ahead. South lane is short, avoid the fort. Escape is like passing a mountain car, artillery fire is behind us, and debris are like rain. But the team's tacit understanding made them leave the pursuit and turn into the alley. Qingyu landed, regained his human form, stained his clothes with blood, and laughed out loud. We did it. Monitoring the start, their layout was revealed. Lina covered his wounds, her eyes were wet, from self-protection to saving people. Your electricity. Let me believe that this city can save it. The prisoners thanked me in a humble manner, and the air was rebirth. The circle came up. Hanlon, good. Data shows that the car will leave at noon tomorrow. We have time to fight back. But Yubin is sitting in the town center, and the crisis is upgraded. Rest, the next battle is in the building. The night was dark, and the smoke in the western region was far away, but Qingyu's heart was like a raging fire. The heroic theory is not empty talk, it is every choice. The team's erectile dysfunction brought him closer to Lina, and her hand was still holding his, warm as the future. Far away, the red light hidden of the tower, the silhouette of the storm is clearer, and the storm is about to roll into the city center. The air in the basement is as hot as a steamer, the blue light on the screen reflects the faces of the people, and the data flows like the river bank. Qingyu leaned against the table, and the wound on his shoulder was still hurting. The cloth rolled out a faint blood, but his eyes were sharp and he stared at the red spot marked on the map underground in the city center, the core enemy of the group. The team monitor shows that the transportation at noon tomorrow will merge there, and the blue picture of the elemental chaotic device is hidden deep. Hanlon's hand that knocked on the keyboard stopped and his rough face began to sniff. Boys, half. This is not a surveillance, but a direct snail of Huang Qingyu. You are in the lead and you are taking the blue picture. Li Na's internal support, and Ziqing stopped them from communicating. I went to the front line to set up a tribute and lead the side to guard the road. Li Na held the green horn tightly, and her eyes flashed under the scars and felt worried. Hanlon, you are exposed to the risk of being too high. Your teacher's positioning, the organization cannot be broken. In the shared link, her thoughts were like green vines. This old man is like his father, always in front of him. Hanlon smiled, and the smoke rose from his lips. Old bones are here, let me go. Qingyu, your transformation skills have improved, from swelling to horns, and then to fusion foxes. Unblock more tonight. Remember, growth is not a fuck, but a smart partner. He patted Qingyu's shoulder, his strength was like a slight person, and turned around and grabbed his coat and left the base, and walked along the stairs and turned into a low echo. Ziqing chewed the gum, and the bubble burst with a bang. The story is locked, the enemy entrance is under the fountain spring, hiding the elevator. Layer trap, laser network, elemental sense, and fantasy. The blueprint is in the bottom-level insurance room, and Yubin's men are strictly guarding it. But I have the tools of the guest, and I'm in the long journey to black their internal network, interfere with the communication 5-minute window. Qingyu, are you ready for the king of the times? Qingyu took a deep breath, and his heart was as quiet as a tide. From the office worker's keyboard to this underground palace, he was so stressed that he couldn't breathe. But Li Na's hands touched his arms lightly, warm as green light pouring in, making him point. Go. Protect the city, start with the blue picture. The crowds in the city center were dispersed at midnight, leaving only the sound of the spring water, the colorful lights under the neon lights, the fragrance of the coffee shop and the low birds flowing far away. Qingyu and Li Na were walking behind the bench, and Hanlon's last message was buzzing in circles. I'm done with the arrangement, and I'm on the edges to bite the mattress. I'm diving into the side wings and seeing the machine. Qingyu was moving hotly, turning into a mouse, a gray-haired small-body diamond into the gap at the base of the spring. His claws grasped the wet talc block, and his nose was filled with the fishy smell of algae. The world has become huge, and the springs are like waterfalls and creeping along the pipes to avoid the low-frequency vibration of the first iron scrambled. The link opens. Li Na's voice sounded in her brain. She stayed on the ground, with green light hidden, and shared vision like a second double eye. Qingyu added her picture to the sea of her brain, behind the elevator door, hidden digital locks and rune flashes. Concentrate, feel my touch, the elemental feeling is the feeling, don't touch the metal when you change. He pulled out the pipe, restored his human form for a moment, pressed the sequence she sent, and opened the door. The elevator descends, and the geese are like a heartbeat, and the air turns into a damp earthy smell. The first floor of the enemy camp is like a maze, the shelves are filled with crystal stone boxes, and the laser nets emitted by red light are like spider threads. Qingyu turned into a black cat, his hair melted in the night, his claws were soundly on the top of the shelf, and his tail was lightly swung to balance. Sniffing and capturing the smell of the smoke and grass, he roamed the internet and shared Li Na's vision prediction blindness. Turn on the left, there is a pressure plate below, step on the summoning elemental ball. A refreshing sense of flexibility came, the cat-shaped night vision allows the laser to follow like a light. As soon as he walked over, he heard the distant step. When he landed, the patrol was approaching. The second floor is even more forested, with runes engraved on the wall, and the sweet fragrance of the fantasy art in the air is like a sugar-coated poison. Qingyu turned into a wolf dog, with a full endurance, running wildly on all sides of the corridor, and claws gripped the ground. Suddenly, the vision was twisted, the mother's hospital bed appeared in front of her, and the sister cried, "Brother, save me." The illusion. His heart sank, he snatched his head, and his heart was dismissed. Fake, this is a trap. But the wolf dog's senses are in turmoil, and the shadows are like living creatures. Qingyu, fusion link. Li Na shouted anxiously, and the green croaker was poured into the bridge. He concentrated his mind and borrowed her elements when he changed his body, the wolf body green vine, and the wild slightness added to her clarity. In an instant, the phantom disintegrated. The image of the mother was shattered into green fragments, and the truth emerged, the three ambushers, hidden in the dark corner, holding a phantom ring, and sneering. I've guessed it, a little transformed ghost. The refreshing spots exploded, the shared vision is like thunder. Qingyu predicts their blind spots, the wolf claws are green and light, and they are swept out like arrows. The first person had not pulled the thrust yet, his claws were striking his throat, and the smell of blood-blooded iron splashed. He turned around and whipped the second person, his bones were broken and he was shattered. The third person opened fire, and Zibo wiped his hair, but the sharing made him flash, his tail was thrown out of the green net and snatched the gun, and the man blew it backwards and bitten it, and the man fell to the ground. Fuck, how to understand? The ambusher gasped, his eyes widened. Because we are together. Qingyu returned to his human form, gasping for kicking the ring, and the joy of growing up arises in his heart. From single fights to leveraging his partners, this fusion is flying. The blue picture is approaching, and the third-level insurance room is in sight, but his circle is sudden. Hanlon's voice is still there, boy, is exposed. They catch me, the side wing trap, the blue picture is. The message number is closed. Qingyu's heart is like a trunk ice cave. Hanlon? Li Na's link was panicked, he shared his location east side supervision. The enemy police report was reported, all sealed. Ziqing inserted into the communication, and his voice was urgent, I hacked their network and broke the attack in 5 minutes. But Yubin came by himself, and the information showed that he was in the core room. Qingyu, is it the first to save people? The moment of a desperate slap, blue pictures are important, but Hanlon is the director, like his family. Qingyu gritted his teeth and said, save. Li Na, you increase my element, I'll go to the east. He took a deep breath, and the heat flowed wildly, and his inner strength was like a volcano erupting. The first advancement. Imagine the shadow leopard, the body is stretched, the black hair is like a shadow, and the muscles are as tight as steel. Unlocked successfully. The world accelerated, doubled its speed and strength, and its claws were like barks, smelling the smell of smoke from Hanlon. The refreshing feeling of improvement is like an electric stylus. From ordinary changes to this leopard-like king, he feels that the potential in his body is fully opened. The corridor on the east side was like a ground, warning the red light flashes, guarding more than a dozen people, holding elemental guns, and fireballs and water arrows shot. Qingyu's shadow leopard ran wildly, with a speed like a ghost. Zibo wiped the air, and the hot waves were swept open by black hair. He climbed to the ceiling, glided with his claws and iron tubes, avoiding the water element network. In the first wave of guarding, he leaned down, his claws tearing the armor of the two men, blood and fire, and roaring in pain. Monster! Elemental seal him! One person roared, throwing out the earthen wall to cut the way. Li Na's increase came, the green croaker was injected with heat, and the shadow leopard body blew the green vines like a living shadow whipped the earthen wall shattered. The shared vision made him predict the thunder, and he pulled out his tail and knocked down the three of them. His strength was like a mountain collapse. Qingyu, the prison is 50 meters, turn right. Li Na shouted, her voice gasping for breath. She summoned the vines to break the edges of the broken vines to disperse the firepower. Ziqing's interference takes effect, guarding wireless code, communication, fault. Head, the intruder is the king of change. In front of the door, the iron sieve flashed with an arc of electric shock. Hanlon was hung up by a chain, his face scattered, and blood hung on the corners of his mouth. Boy, go! Blue picture. He growled, his eyes flashing. Qingyu felt heartbroken and felt unfaithful. The instructor saved me countless times, and he couldn't let me go. He growled, the shadow leopard claws tear the iron slug, the current is like a sage, and the green vines increase to dissolve the numbness. The door is broken, guarding the way, the 5-person elemental development, fire dragon water snake earth thorn shadow blade. In the crisis, it turned like thunder. A tall figure walked out of the darkness. Yu Bin, the leader of the group, was like 50 years old, with a stylus in Western style, and the silver ring in his hand was radiating 4-color elemental light. The air around his body is twisted, like a king who has descended. He sneered, and his voice was like an ice blade. Boy, change your body? Interesting toys. But you are as weak as a thorn, dare to hang me at the core? The old dog Hanlon, the exposed position is to drag you into the water. The elemental plan has been opened, and the city will fall tomorrow. Your piercing is all about laughter. Mocking like fire, Qingyu's fighting ambition exploded. Weak? From an office worker to this place, he is a fight for his family, Li Na, and the city. The inner heart turns like a steel cord. It is not anger, it is a determination. Yu Bin, you destroyed Li Na's family and destroyed the city? Today, it will start to break from your subordinates. Shadow Leopard roared, increasing its speed again, and the green vine increased its claws like elemental blades, tearing the fire dragon open, and defending the barrier. Ziqing added code, the enemy's communication is completely black, guarding the straits as a group, header, signal. Yu Bin's eyebrows were lit up, and he summoned the earth wall to hold Qingyu and slammed it. Little horn, advanced form? But the element origin, I control the overall situation. He shook his hand, the water arrows were like rain. Qingyu flickered his body, and his claws caught the Hanlon chain and broke. He picked up the Hanlon clothes and rushed out of the prison. In the fire, the guard chased after him, but Li Na's vines came in from the cracks, like green dragons, dragging the three of them. Qingyu, withdraw. I share the blue picture with my shared vision in the north wall of the core room. Get it quickly. Rescue half finished. Qingyu dragged Hanlon and ran wildly. Shadow Leopard supported 2 people with its power, and its speed was as fast as a corridor. Yu Bin's laughter came after him. Run? Blue is a little bitch, you're on the throne. But Qingyu, who was excited by his will, did not retreat, and his heart grew like fire. He was beating alone, not Lu Mang, but trusting the team. Ziqing shouted, the interference will be extended, 3 minutes. The core room is empty, guard and move away. The core room is close, the door is half closed, and the blue picture is flashing in the insurance cabinet. Qingyu dropped Hanlon and restored the human form to open the lock, sharing Li Na's elemental touch. Click. Get the blue picture, the paper is covered with ice, and the painting is full of 4 elements. But the warning was even more stable, and his feet were coming. Hanlon gasped and stood up and patted him on the back. Boy, has grown up. From weak chicken to shadow leopard, this is your climax. But Yu Bin is eyeing us. Withdraw. Li Na's voice rose in the link, with anxiousness. The ground is connected. The vines open the way. They snatched out, and the elements behind them exploded like thunder and debris like rain. But with the blue picture in hand, the rescue was successful. Qingyu's shadow grew in the red light, and his fighting ambition was as if he was not burning. Yu Bin's ridicule was igniting the greater war. The plot was halfway through, and the confrontation began. As the elevator rose, the sound of water became closer, and the city's lights were hidden in front of it, but the shadow of the storm had already covered the sky above the building. The elevator door slid open, and the sound of the spring water rolled over like a waterfall, scattering the aroma of coffee left on the ground and the carpenters on the streets. Qingyu ran out with Hanlon. The blue figure was tightly stuffed into the inner pocket of the crocodile, and the edge of the paper scraped the skin, reminding him of the price of this battle. The police officer behind him was roaring like wild animals, and red light shook out from the elevator entrance, but Li Na's green vines had sealed the entrance, and the vines were scattered like iron locks, holding the pursuit soldier's steps. The night wind blew his hair, the salty fog poured into his nose, and the city's lights were lit in front of his eyes, like countless eyes watching. Boy, relax. Hanlon gasped, his sluggish face smiled, patted Qingyu's shoulder, and his strength was still carrying the veteran's robber. I got the blue picture, Hanlon, I have never lost my old bones. You have grown from a newbie to a rescuer, and I have grown up like myself in that year. Li Na appeared in the shadows, her long hair was wet and green pine was moving. She held Qingyu's hand, sharing the connection was like a warm current injecting, relieved the burning pain on his shoulder. "Let's go, the car is at the entrance of the alley." Ziqing blacked their monitoring and the backup arrived in 2 minutes. The three of them left the venue, stepping on the moist talc, and the slippery touch made Qingyu's heart beat faster. Ziqing's black SUV slipped in like a ghost, and the tire rubbed against the ground and broke through the night sky. She leaned out and shouted, "Go on the car." Yubin's pursuer bit his tail, but my wife's show made them turn around blindly. The car was falling into the night, and the engine rushed over the sirens. Qingyu leaned against the seat, and the blue mat opened on his knees. Runes are like living creatures twisting, outlining the confusion of 4 elements: wind, fire, water and soil, with the core located underground in the city center. After activation, it can cause disaster stage turbulence. Hanlon rubbed the marks on his wrist and said in a low voice, "This thing is not a simple blow-up, it is Yubin's ace. There is a storage warehouse on the edge, full of elemental crystals. If the blood supply is cut off, it can drag them to start time." Lina pointed her head and her eyes flashed under the scar. When I connected, I glanced at Yubin's ring. Shared vision. His elemental origin is weak. The silver ring is an old prop, which will backfire when loaded. Too many fire elements will break, exposing the blind area he controlled. The data his father stole that year was mentioned. Yubin was afraid of internal betrayal and always hid his hand. Qingyu's heart was tightened, and his heart was as white as light. Weakness? From the weak chicken being chased to the blueprint now holding the city and family, they all rely on him to protect them. But I am afraid that I am still there, like a shadow. If you fail, what should I do with my mother's hospital bed? Okay, the counterattack starts with the hiding library. Hanlon, the circle is coordinated with multiple lines. You are in a position to get in the edge of the situation. Lina and I are in a dive and destroy. Ziqing. The information network is on the verge of being on the verge of 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 the ver. The circle of buzzing birds started, and Hanlon's voice was like a slinging rod knocking, received. The organization was tuned to 2 teams, and the edge was at the southern area to scrap the boat. The treasure database was hidden in the underground code, guarding 50 people. The little boss Yanqing was connected, specializing in controlling the fire element. Ziqing communicated, and I led the patrol on the east side. You went in from the sewer on the west side to destroy the crystal stone database. Remember, the element explosion will be locked. Please feel free, but don't try your best. Ziqing chewed the gum, bubbled and banged, and the map on the screen. There is a big hit in the ship, and the sky is full of thunder, but the sewer on the west side is blind. I implanted a virus and interfered for 10 minutes. Be careful of the firewall of Yanqing, and you can blow up the warehouse by passing him. The ships in the southern area were sleeping like giant beasts, with sea breezes and fishy smells and iron smells, and the waves slapped the heads of the codes and blew up. Qingyu and the other 2 were wandering in the shadow of the container, connecting a team in circles, and the sounds were like waves of the war scene. The east side is in position, and the patrol is biting the pad. Lina said in a low voice, "The connection is opened, and my vision explores the inside of the field." The hiding warehouse is 100 meters below the code, and the crystal stones are piled like mountains, guarding the road. Qingyu took a deep breath, and the heat flowed, and the brain was flickering. This is a counterattack, but all elements are out of control? The heart turned like a steel-tempered steel. No, his family's face appeared, and he gritted his teeth. I will explore the way first, turn into a fish and swim into the sewer. The body was retracted, the flakes spread out like a knife, and he sucked the sewage, and the world turned into a green whirlpool. The water flowed coldly and the slapped and pushed in, and the vision stretched to the bottom of the code. The refreshing feeling of cruising came, from the zombies of the land to the underwater spirit. This transformation made him feel that he was out of place. Sharing Lina's vision, he avoided the underwater sensor network, pulled out the pipes, and restored his human form to climb up the wet sliding ladder. The door of the storage warehouse is in sight, and the fire behind the iron door is hidden. The guard is approaching, 5 people. Li Na's voice sounded in her brain, and green horns were injected with heat. I call on the vines to seal the door, you are chaotic. Qingyu pointed his head, and the heat flowed again. The advanced moment, imagine the birds, the power inside the body splits, like a shadow clone. For the first trial, more than 10 black ducks burst out from around him, their wings were as bright as ink, and their cry was harsh and sang. It's a little fun. The ducks swirled and swung, their claws pecked at their eyes, their feathers slammed the soil, their eyes were filled with guns and their guns were squirting, and the sound of the hollow sound of the roar was everywhere. What ghost? Duck attack! Shogun roared, the torch fell, and the sparks were filled with 4. Li Na rushed out, and the green vines whipped like whips, and she stopped 2 people and fell, her bones cracked and mixed with a mixed duck. Qingyu, the door is open. During the sharing, her trunk was like green light injected. He retracted the duck group, claws no, pressed his palms on the door, and unblocked the circle. When the door opens, the crystal stone warehouse is like a treasure cave, the blue-green crystal stones are piled up, scattering the heat waves of buzzing birds, and the air is twisted like illusion. The little boss turned around, a tall and thin man, his eyes were like torches, and the fireball in his hand slammed. Invaders? Change the birds? Interesting, burning you. Fighting Huali explodes, the fire heart shook his hands, the firewall was like a dragon rolling up the trench, the heat waves burned, and the burnt smell of the burnt air shook the nose. Qingyu growled, afraid of falling into the air. This fire, like the night when you been destroyed Li Na's house. I feel sorry for my heart, I'm afraid. But when the mother's smile flashed, they believed, I can protect them. Growth and turn like electricity, borrowing Li Na's connection, the heat flow inside the body merges with green vines, and the first element is summoned. The green light in the palm explodes, the vines are like green firewalls, squeezing the flame heart, and the steam hissing and rising. What? The elemental initial summons? You are this new guy. Yan Xian was stunned and the fireball shot. The team is as refreshing as a dance. Li Na whips her vines to her heart, Qingyu's duck group reappears, and is in chaos. Black feathers are like arrows, raining rain, pecking the eyes of 3 people, and the smell of blood is everywhere. The team led the team to break in from the east side, and the gun sounded like thunder. The target of the hidden warehouse is destroyed. Ziqing reported the assist, the fire heart is weak, the left rib is damaged, and the fire element is over. Qingyu concentrated, green vines poured into the duck group, the birds blew into the fire and green light, and the crystal stone pile was blown down. The first pile of blue crystals burst, water elements were like floods, burning fire walls, and steam was like a fog dragon swallowing and guarding the walls. The second pile of red crystals locked, the flames penetrated the sky and were guided by the vines, and they retaliated against the flame heart. The man roared, the middle claw of the left rib, the fireball exploded from control, his clothes were burned, and he fell to the ground with pain. Impossible, how do you know your weakness? Climax, the elements in the library flow in a mess, crystals are like smoke and open, for colors of light intertwine, the birds are deafening, and the fragments are like colorful rain. Qingyu summoned the green vine bridge and evacuated the team. The last time the duck group pecked the broken flame heart ring. The fire element backed down like a volcano spray, the top of the warehouse collapsed, and the chips fell like rain. The refreshing and victorious feeling is like a tide, from fear to control. He feels that power takes root, and he believes in his heart. Family, city, I have secured it. But the turn and break out. During the collapse, a guard climbed up, his eyes flashed, and he said, wait. I am an inner ghost. The organization was installed, and the name was Shadow. Yubin has a bigger mystery. The elemental plan is not only a mess, he is in charge of the internal ghosts in the political circle, and he cleanses his brains. When the venue starts tomorrow, he will traitors and destroy the entire government network. The blue picture is only half, and the true core is in the head private park. The man came to a piece of encrypted chip, staining his fingers with blood, transferred to you. Be careful, the traitor is not the only one. Yubin doubts the inside, and the cleaning is imminent. Qingyu's heart was heavy when he connected the chip. The verge of the verge is like a slightest opening, and the existence of the traitor makes the battle even more difficult. Li Na's eyebrows. Dad mentioned it that year, and there was a division within the group. Thank you, Yuying. Withdraw. The circle started, and Hamlin was anxious. Boy, the treasure has been destroyed, it's great. But the pursuers came. You have been sent a small boss thunder knot, with special elements, and led 10 people to block the southern exit. Ziching, map travel. Outside the boat, the waves are swaying, and the thunder thorn appears, a short and powerful man, with an electric arc leaping around his body, like a thunder god descending, and his eyes are like blue flashes. Yin Xian fell? The head was angry, a little transformed ghost, die. He shook his hand. The internet was like a spider-shaped silk, the air crackled, and the smell of ozone was pungent. Keep the garden in circle, and the gun is in line. The moment of the first battle came to a success. Qingyu growled. The green vine grew into a leopard. The speed was like an electric scalpel. The claw hook and the electric scalpel were torn, and the sparks were burning. But he was afraid that he had already resolved his mind, so he summoned the initial element. Green vines whipped the thunder thorns like whip. The arc of electric slaughtered back to the man's arm, and screamed in pain. Borrow elements? Boy, you have evolved. Li Na helped. The vines guarded the shore. The formation of a small team opened fire, and the rain fell on the rain. Qingyu's leopard claws directly hit the throat of the thunder thorn, sheared the visual field and predicted the arc trolley. Once the claws are avoided, the claws are planned to open for protection, and blood is sprayed. The man knelt on the ground, the light dimmed. The leader will take revenge. The pursuit stopped, the thunder and thorns fell, and the crowd retreated into the night while gasping for breath. Qingyu restored his human form, held the chip tightly, and a warm current surged in his heart. The traitors turned deep in the crisis, but it also gave hope. In the circle, Hanlon smiled. The counter-rhythm has started. Boy, the park is the goal. But Yubin is staring tightly, and the storm is approaching. The sea breeze blew, and the flames of the ship reflected the sky, and the silhouette of the silhouette was deeper. The battle at the square was already in the process of counter-country. The engine sound of the SUV is weakened in the night, and the tires are crushed over the gravel roads in the southern region, causing fine crunch. Qingyu leaned against the back seat, and the encrypted chip slightly burst into the palm of his hand, like a blow-off in an uncertain time. The air inside the car is hot, mixed with the fishy smell of the sea wind and the burnt smell left by the flame hearthouse. Li Na sat beside her, her green cypress moving, and the shared link made him feel her fatigue. The old wound that crawled out of the sea of fire, now tangled with her hiding concern for the future. Hanlon rubbed the marks in the front seat, and the bruises on his face pulled a long shadow under the road lights. Ziching held the direction plate and glanced at the back of his eyes. The pursuer was thrown away, but Yubin's dog legs were like bloody fish. The base was safe, and the information network was not unusual. The basement lights are dazzling, and the blue light on the screen is like a tide. Ziching inserted the chip, and the data was like a waterfall, a list of ghosts in the political world. A deep layer blueprint of the elemental plan appeared. The final control password was hidden in the city center, the sky tower of the high-level building, Yubin's private office building. On the surface is a multinational enterprise, underneath is an extraordinary energy park. Awesome, this chip is the hard work of the ghost. The password is the key to start the chaotic device. You must steal it before the operation in the venue at noon tomorrow. Otherwise, the city will be in a state of fire and fire. Ziching knocked on the keyboard, and the sweetness of bubble gum spread out. Hanlon stood up, and his smile under the gray beard showed a serious look. Boys, the investigation is in depth. This tower is not a ship, high-tech flying in the sky. Red, Leda, an elemental sense network. Qingyu, your transformation technique has been in a strong stage, from shadow leopard to elemental borrow, but the mental attack is weak. Training and upgrading. Tonight, practice bat form, night walk expert, ultrasonic exploration, avoid monitoring. Fusion of Li Na's connection, try spiritual defense. Yubin loves to play with phantoms, don't let him make a fuss. Qingyu pointed his head, his heart was heavy. The inner self is as unique as a whisper. Medium strength? When I was at work, I was afraid of reporting, and I was in the dragon pond now. But my mother's phone raised her head. Son, has the money been transferred? He clenched his fists. Tell me, Hanlon. I can't let them destroy the family. The training ground lights are dimmed, and the tower is shaped into the chalet. The containers are stacked like high floors, hiding lasers and fake elements. A piece of energy crystal came from Hanlon, and the ice rolled into his palm. Swallow it, lock the bat genes. Concentrate, feel the vibration of the wings. Qingyu took a deep breath, flowed hotly, his body retracted, his membrane spread like a wing, and his black hair covered his body, and the world turned into an echo plot. Ultrasonic waves are like thunder storing, and each laser can be followed by a light beam. He flapped his wings and flew up, shouting, avoiding the net, and gliding on the ceiling. The first time I was in balance, I hit the iron wall, which was shocking. But Hanlon shouted, still. Combine Li Na's green vine, and the wings bless the elements, and the spirit is like a vine root. Li Na stepped forward, and the green light injected into it, connecting it like a bridge. Try to synchronize. My vision adds your ultrasound, and feel my skull. The heat flow merged. Qingyu's bat wings were green, flying more stable, and her memories appeared in her brain. In the sea of fire, she climbed out of the ruins and vowed to revenge. Mental defense upgrade. The phantom trial comes to hit, his heart sways, and his mother's image flashes, but the green vines are like a clerk, pulling back to reality. It's done! Qingyu returned to his human form, sweat slid down, and he was excited. This shape, a king at night. The spiritual shackles were locked, and I felt relaxed. Medium strong stage, qualified. Hanlon patted his shoulder, his eyes flickered. Li Na assisted elements, Ziqing He Tower inside. Move in midnight, dive into the top floor of the Sky Dome Tower, and the password is at the Yuebin insurance office. It's refreshing, but remember that emotions are your shield, the safety of your family. Don't let the phantom diamond. The city at midnight is like a steel forest. The Sky Tower stands at the center, 300 layers high, and the glass curtain wall is filled with stars and neon lights. The wind is at the base of the tower, and the musical fun is ripped off the chaotic and remote venues. Qingyu and Li Na were wandering in the pagoda park, with grass moistening and dew pouring into the soles of the shoe. The circle was buzzing, and Ziqing's voice was low. The inner network is black, and the monitoring is blind for 5 minutes. There are 10 people on the top, high-tech door locks, and the elemental feeling. The blind spot on the west side of the sun, from where to go. The link opens. Li Na said softly, touching the circle with her hands, and the green is hot like a connecting link. Qingyu pointed at the head, the heat exploded, and his body changed into a bat. The wing membrane was slapped, and the night sky was home. He took off and ultrasonic waves scanned the tower wall. Each red line can be avoided as a heated line. The world is slanted, and the glass curtain is like a giant net, but he is flexibly slid on his claws and hooks. The refreshing night walk was filled with emotion. From the ground to the ghosts in the sky, the transformation made him feel impeccable. Li Na followed the ground, climbing the wall with green vines in a shaped shape, and shared the vision. The top layer is close, guard the blind spot of patrol logic, turn right. The balcony door was half closed, the wind blew into the office, and the paper was rustling. Qingyu landed and restored his human form, pushed the door in. The carpet was thick and sound-absorbing, and the air was filled with leather and electronic flavor. The corridor lights are dim and yellow, and the steps are like drums. He whispered, simultaneous attack, prepare. Li Na pointed and moved. I will help you, you will be the one who will fight. The warning is hidden, guarding the horn and turning the body, 5 people holding guns, and the elemental shield is flashed all over the body. Invade, the leader roared, and the fire element shot out like a stone. Qingyu growled, and rushed into a fierce rush, transformed into a tiger. The body is swollen, the tiger's hair is as golden as a horn, the claws are as sharp as blades, and the muscles are as tight as steel wires. The world is low, and he smells the smell of sweat. He swings out, the tiger roars deafening his ears, claws tear the first-person shield, and the smell of blood-blooded iron lens spreads. The refreshing explosion, The medium strength is like a mountain collapse. The tiger body borrows Li Na's green vine. The claws are green like elemental blades. The second person's armor is opened, and the bones and flesh are torn and broken and scattered. Li Na rose. The green croaker exploded, summoning the elemental storm. The vines rolled up like crazy wind, and the green blade was like a turtle, helping to lift the wings on the side of the sky. Synchronous attack is like a heart-sighted communication. She predicted the verge of a sensation, and his tiger claws directly hit the blind spot. The third person took a gun. The wind whip sucked the weapon. Qingyu bit his throat, and the hot blood dripped his chin, and the man twitched and fell to the ground. Monster. Elemental seal. The remaining two people threw the earth wall and slashed the way, but the tiger's body passed by. Its claws smashed the earth block. The green wind stormed and swallowed the shield, and the light and fire were all over the place. The refreshing breakthrough was like electric. The corridor was covered in blood and the defense line was broken, and they headed straight to the top-level insurance room. The password cabinet is inside. Li Na gasped. Her face was red, and her excitement was like green waves in the shearing. Qingyu's tiger claws locked, and the circles reflected in the sequence, but the turn and protruded in the center of the room. The air was twisted, and a phantom appeared. Yu Bin's model, with a sling of the west. The silver ring was flashing with 4 colors, and his smile was like a poisonous snake. Boy, it's you again. Are you strong? It's ridiculous. Look at this. He hooked his fingers and his spiritual shackles were locked under a net. Phantom invades the brain. Mom collapses in the hospital. Her sister is captured by the group, and the sea of fire in the city collapses. Qingyu's body was frozen, his claws were shaking, and his heart was thrust like a tide. Safe? This is fake. But I am afraid that it will be like a vine to twist my heart. The weakness of office workers will repeat. How can the loser who typing the code protect his family? Sweat mixed blood dripped, and he growled, Li Na. Help me. The sharing link exploded. Li Na's green heat flow was like a rescue and joy injected into Qingyu. It's real to miss family. Mother's smile. Sister's phone. Not a phantom, it's your shield. Her recollection added. In the sea of fire, she held her father's hand. Nana, live and protect the city. Emotional fusion was like a fire. Qingyu's inner breakthrough. From piercing to awakening, the spiritual shackles shattered. The hot current is reversed, and the new ability is unlocked. Elemental backlash. The tiger's body was green and bright, and the phantom was reversed. The energy reaped like a tide. Yu Bin's image distorted and disintegrated, screaming and resounding. Impossible, to borrow the spirit? The phantom scatters, the guard cabinet clicks on it, and the password chip flashes blue. Qingyu recovered his human form, knelt on the ground and gasped, and his heart was warm, growing to the middle strength, not just the body, but the heart. The safety of the family will change from fear of change. Li Na, thanks. This new ability, spiritual backlash, is like our connection. The circle was in a hurry, and Ziqing shouted, the police are all open. Yu Bin has not come, but his clone is exposed. Escape route, the emergency elevator on the east side. The monitoring was blacked out, but 20 people came to guard. Go to the top floor machine room, jumping on the sunset. Hanlon's voice followed and smiled, boy, your new ability is awesome. I will form a team to block the tower base, and I will support it in the air. Spiritual upgrade, remember fighting and fusion of emotions is the king. They pulled out, and their feet were thunderous behind them. Qingyu grabbed the chip and pulled Li Na's hand, retreat synchronously. She turned into a bat and slapped her flying platform, slapped the wing membrane, and green vines helped glide. The door of the machine room is opened, guarding the surround, and the fire is like rain. Qingyu's super sound blindness, the green wind storms and messes up, and the rush to escape like a shadow swept through the sky. The east elevator descends, the steep birds are deafening, the chips are in hand, the night wind is waving outside the tower, and the city lights are extending in front. But Yu Bin's low-key words, have the password? The game has just begun. The climax was like a tide. Qingyu held Li Na's hand tightly, and the emotional fire was raging, and the battle was almost at hand. The car slid into the underground car in the darkness before dawn, and the low tread of the wheels grew like a heartbeat. Qingyu pushed open the car door, and the night wind squirted over the pungent smell of the city's tail gas. His hand was still tightly holding the password chip, and the blue light was hiding between his fingers, like a restless star. The wound on his shoulder hurt, and the cloth bleeded, but the fire in his heart was raging from the mental backlash inside the tower to the key now holding the key. This transformation made him feel that he was no longer the loser who knocked on the code. Li Na followed her green cypress, sharing the links like fine threads, allowing him to capture her fatigue and troubles. The base lights were bright, Ziqing was already guarding the main console, and the data on the screen was like a storm. She chewed the gum, and the bubble burst with a bang, and she turned around and said, "Brother, are you back? The chip is awesome, decrypted, the final code of the elemental plan is confirmed. The turbulent platform will start tomorrow at noon. The turbulent device will release the 4-element storm, and the government network will be destroyed, and the political ghosts will take over. Yubin's private park is the headquarters, and there is a control core. We have to cut off his way." Hanlon leaned against the wall, and the bruises on his face turned purple under the lights. He ignited the electronic cigarette, and the mint smell spread out. "On the eve of the general attack, we will move tonight." The whole team was pressed, but the risk was high. "Qingyu, you are the most flexible in the transformation, and you will dive into the garden and destroy their elemental storage. The blue picture shows that there's the boss frost blade and the ice elemental specialty, guarding the props. Li Na and I externally control it, Qinghei's communication network. Remember, boy, this is not a game, it is the fate of the city." Qingyu's heart sank, and he fell into it alone. The inner self is as white as a tide, from the team to one person carrying it, the pressure is as strong as a mountain. But he looked at Li Na's scar, the mark left by the sea of fire, and pointed at it. "Okay. I'll go. I can't let them destroy the venue tomorrow, my mother's hospital, my sister's school, it's all in it." Li Na held his hand, and the green was injected with heat, and her voice was low and soft. "Disconnect. I share my vision, you are not alone. The night is as dark as ink, and the private garden with fog is located on the edge of the city. The iron sieve is like a giant teeth, and the air is filled with pine and hidden chemical smell." Qingyu was wandering in the shadow of the trees, and Ziqing's guidance was buzzing. The blind spot on the west side of the wall, and the red outside was closed for 3 minutes. The inner palace of the garden was covered with a trunk in the garden, and the ice block on the frost blade was patrolling the road. He took a deep breath, and the heat flowed, turning into a black bat. The wing membrane was slapped, and the ultrasonic waves scanned the world like an invisible net, and each tree branch could follow like a light line. At night, he slid over the wall, his claws and stone tiles landed soundlessly, and he returned to his human form and slipped into the garden. The lights and fires in the garden are hidden, and the sound of the water in the spring covers the steps. Qingyu slid along the rows, the pungent fragrance of flowers mixed with the earth and the moisture in his nose captured the sweat odor of guardianity. He whispered, "Li Na, sharing the vision, what's inside?" She added her picture in her brain. "The underground entrance is at the bottom of the spring, with runes hidden. Concentrate, feel my touch, the ice element is the one, don't touch it head on." But the crisis suddenly came. The steps were inconsistent, and a team patrolled the horn and appeared. 3 of them held guns, and the blue shield was flashing all over their bodies. "Who is there?" The leader growled, and the ice arrow shot out, like a cold pinch piercing the air, and the grass leaves made a crisp sound. Qingyu's heart was tight and the heat was bursting out. He turned into a leopard. The body stretched, the black hair melted like night, the speed was like a ghost, the claws hooked the first person's throat, and the smell of blood-blooded iron lens spread. The shared vision predicts that the second person's gun is shot, his side is flashed, the leopard tail is swept down, and the bone is broken and the bone is broken and the patient is shattered. The refreshing feeling of killing came, but the ice arrow wiped his hair with a chilling chill. "Boy, hold on. The external control begins." Li Na's voice sounded in her brain. The circle was rushing, and Hanlon's rough voice penetrated. "We're going to do it." Li Na's vines sealed the east gate, and I'm gunning the south side of the fire. Ziching, black them communicated the police code in the park. A remote explosion was blue, and the flames reflected the red night sky, guarding the stump towards the outside like a tide. Qingyu took advantage of the trouble to rush towards the spring, his claws swept the water surface, and the runes locked in the blue light. He concentrated his mind and used Li Na's green heat to inject it small elements to call for the first trial. Green light burst out in the palm of your hand, vines like keys and lock cores, frost melted and hissed, and the door clicked to open. The underground storage is like an ice cave, the walls are frost, the air is cold and piercing the lungs, and the nose is filled with the smell of metal and soil. The shelf is full of props, rings and flickers, and crystal stones like blue stones scatter and emit cold light. The middle boss turned around with a frost blade, with a tall and thin man with silver hair like frost, and his body was covered with ice fog, holding a blue blade. The changer? The leader said you are irritated. Ice sealed this cave. He shook his hand, the ice wall was like a tide rising, and the cold air was like a knife cutting his skin. Personal challenge explodes, Qingyu growled, and the heat flows wildly, multi-shaped switching. First, change the wolf dog, stretch your endurance, run wildly with all your limbs to avoid ice arrows, and grab the ground with claws to break ice and fly. The frost blade sneered, the blue blade emerged, the ice waves rolled like a sea, and the air was brittle. He started to slim up the shadow leopard, and quickly burst into the top of the wall, and his claws were hooked and the ice shelf was sliding, but the coldness bleaked, his body temperature dropped, and his vision was blurred. Qingyu, borrow my element. Li Na shouted, and the green heat injected, and her heart was filled with regret. From an ordinary office worker to this ice and fire test, she insisted on her family. Turning like electric, the flashing in the brain reveals new ideas. Small elements help transform the body. The heat flow merges with green vines and injects the fox's shape. The body is narrow, the red hair is like fire, and the tail is green. Flame fox unblocked. The world is low and agile, with hair scattering and waving, and claws like fire. He snatched out, fox fire burned the ice wall, steamed and hissed, and the blue blade melted the frost blade and mourned it. What? Flame melts ice? Frost blade was stunned, and the ice arrow shot, but the fox body moved away, and his tail threw out a green whip and beat the prop stand. The first row of rings melted, the runes burst and sparks were 4 times, the second row of crystals was burned and destroyed, the blue light turned red, and the explosion was shocking. The cool spot is exploding, Qingyu's fox ran wildly, claws scratching the frost blade to protect the shield, the fire-green light intertwined and tore the ice armor, the blood and melting water mixed, the man roared and retreated. Impossible, to transform into the melting element in the middle? He fought back, the ice fog was like a net cover, but Qingyu summoned a small fireball borrowing Li Na's amplification. The fox spitted flames, burned the frost blade's clothes, and the burned smell spread. Finally, the claws were straight into the throat, and the flame fox body burst into heat, retaliated against the ice element. The frost blade fell to the ground and twitched, and the blue blade shattered like glass. The head, the ring, in the core room. He gasped, his eyes dimmed. Knock the boss. Qingyu returned to his human form, panting, and his hands were burning with flames, and a sense of conquest in his heart. From a weak chicken to this point, changing one's body is no longer about escaping, but about being the master. But the turn and burst, a piece of debris fell from the frost blade, and the silver ring fragments were engraved with 4 element runes. Qingyu lifted up, circles of buzzing birds. Ziching's voice was excited, report matching. This is the fragment of the element ring, Yubin's ace prop, which can summon elements in a large range. But the fragments have weaknesses, overloading will backfire the original body. Return to the base and analyze. The external control is in full swing. Li Na's voice burst into the link, and the sound of a gun. Qingyu, we are suppressed. But Yubin was moving, and there was elemental storm on the north side of the park. He was in charge of the ghosts and planned to not only be the disaster of heaven and also to wash the crowds in the building, create extraordinary violence and overthrow the society. Hanlon followed and gasped, boy, retreat. The city crisis is approaching, and it will start at noon tomorrow. and ordinary people will become cannon fodder. Qingyu's heart sank, and the ring fragments sank into his palm. But in the link, Li Na's thoughts were like green vines storing in truth-sharing moment. The screen flashed. 5 years ago, the Sea of Fire, her father held the prototype ring. Nana, Yubin stole the origin of this element, and was in contact with politicians and ghosts, who wanted to use brainwashing to control the alien community. On the day of the family rebirth, he summoned the fire element and burned the evidence. But Dad hid the thread. The ring has a backlash gap, which can break his power. Li Na's voice was trembling and warm. Qingyu, this is my hatred. But now, it is ours. Vowing to revenge is not for hatred, but for the lights of the city. The heart is twisted like thunder. Qingyu's brain is rippled, from the self-protection of ordinary people to the oath of the leader. My mother's hospital bed, her sister's smile, and the neon lights of the city are all like fire. He whispered, Li Na, I swear. From office workers here, I will no longer hide. Revenge, protect the family, break the blame. I am the leader. He grew up and transformed into a steel fire, fearing that he would transform his determination, and he felt that the strength in his body was like the crown of a leader. Ziqing cracked the lock and the message was restored. The external channel is opened. Li Na and Hanlin are connected. The ring fragments are transmitted, and I analyze the weaknesses. If you load the fire element, you can explode Yubin. Qingyu pulled out the storage warehouse, and the firelight behind him burned the props and the fire burned into the sky, and the garden became a porridge. The transformed bat flew out of the north gate, the ultrasonic waves avoided the striking arrows, and the green vines raised him from the ground to support him and glided. Hanlon's gun was covered. Li Na's vines opened, they merged with SUVs, and the wheel-tie tip was planned to break the night sky. Inside the car, Qingyu held the fragments tightly, and the city's lights extended in front, but the crisis was like a tide. Yubin's low-pitched lingered in the brain. The game has just begun. On the eve of the general attack, the ring line pushed to the climax. Qingyu's eyes were like a wolf, and the fire of the leader was beating. The storm in the building is close at hand. The iron door of the car warehouse closed, and a deep resonance came out, like the city's fighting was breathing. Qingyu followed the crowd into the base, and the ring fragments burst into flames in his palms, and the silver light shone on his fingers, moving like a living thing. The air in the basement still retains the mint smell of electronic cigarettes and the bitterness of coffee, and the data on the screen is like crazy. Ziqing knocked on the keyboard at a speed like rain, and her eyes narrowed into a piece of paper. The fragments are decrypted. This is the key component of the element ring, Yubin's ace, the origin of the 4 elements, which can control the turbulence of wind, fire, water, soil, and soil. But the gap in the fragment is exactly the backlash point. By loading the fire element, you can blow up the gray smoke. Hanlon was approaching, and his rough fingers slapped over the silver, and the bruises on his face shone in the blue light. Boy, this thing is not a toy. The organizational information shows that the complete ring is hidden in the final enemy camp, the underground castle in the plaza, Yubin's headquarters. That is the core of the elemental plan, and the starting device is in it. Before the action at noon tomorrow, we have to take a lead. Qingyu, you are already ace to transform into elements. We were pieces and try to fusion, but be careful, the backlash will burn. Li Na's green croaker was flickering. She held Qingyu's hand and shared the link was like a warm current injected. In Dad's memory, this ring is a double-blade sword. Yubin stole it and destroyed my house. But with the link, I can calm your spirit. I vow to revenge, starting from tonight. Her eyes were like stars, and the slight under the scar made Qingyu feel warm. Inner self-indulgence is like a flash. From the panic of office workers to the current leader fire, this fragment is not only power, but also the crown of responsibility. Mom's hospital bed, city lights, can't let it sink. Qingyu took a deep breath and buckled the fragments into the groove of the ring. The heat flow is like a volcanic eruption, the body changes internally in the elemental corpus, and the bones are intertwined, and the vision is stretched to infinite. He growled, and the 4 colors of light were shining around him. The wind blades were like swords, the flames were like dragons, the water waves were like tides, and the earth walls were like mountains. Successfully integrated. When the power of the elemental ring woke up, he swung his hand in the air at the training ground was twisted. The small storm rolled up the container, and the chips flew and made a sharp whistle. The refreshing peak feels like a king, from weak chicken to super strong, this power is like a crown by the king. It's done. But I'm in control. He gasped and stopped, sweat slid down, feeling like melting in his body. Super strong stage, start. Hanlon pointed his head, his eyes flashed. Tonight's total attack, Qingyu dives into the fortress, activates the device and destroys the core. Li Na and I are externally controlled, Zi Qinghai is on the internet, and a team is blocked by the edge of the square. Move simultaneously, and the circle is connected in real life. Remember, boy, the climax is imminent, it's not fun, it's guarding. The pre-dawn building was like a sleeping giant beast, and the sound of the spring water covered the hidden sirens. Qingyu wore a fusion circle, wandering in the shadow of the bench, the sea breeze and the electric smell of neon lights swollen. The final enemy entrance is hidden at the bottom of the spring, and the iron door runes flash blue light. The circle was buzzing, Ziqing's voice was low, the inner network is black, and she is in a mess. The 3 underground layers, the core is at the bottom layer. The small boss group, the Yenqin party, Shadow Blade Men, and Lei Ji, more than 10, the elements are mixed. The outside is in place, Hanlon and Li Na are under pressure from the southeast. The connection is opened. Li Na's green heat flowed into the brain, and her vision added, the inside of the fortress is like a maze, the laser net is like a spider, and the footsteps are like thunder. Qingyu pointed at the head, and the heat exploded, transformed into a giant beast. The body rapidly expands, the muscles are bulging like mountain beads, the hair is like a steel bulb, the claws are like giant bulbs, the fusion element rings, and the 4-color light bulbs are bulbs, wind speed, fire burning enemy, water bracelet, and soil increase strength. The world was getting low, and he growled, roaring, shaking the ground, cracking like a snake. The exciting explosion, from the small animal to the giant beast of this peak, its strength was as strong as the prehistoric world. He smashed the iron door with one claw, the runes shattered and sparks were 4 times, and the iron chips fell like rain. The first floor of the fortress is like a ground bulb, with a pile of crystals and a laser network that emits red light. Qingyu's giant beast ran wildly, limbs on the ground like an earthquake, claws swept laser light, wind blades cut through light lines like knives, crackling arcs and air smelled burnt. The little boss's storm, 5 flame hearts swing fireballs like stones, hot waves burning, shadow blade subordinates come, the air twists and roars and sounds harsh, thunder thorns open the evil network, and the smell of ozone spreads. Qingyu growled, and the elemental storms summoned the roar, the power of the ring exploded. The flames around her body rolled up, the burning fireballs retaliated, and the steaming smelled like a dragon swallowed the 3 of them, and the pain roared and the bones were broken and shattered. Monster! Elemental King? A shadow knife subordinate screamed, and the shadow came. The refreshing and swiping is as clear as electricity, the giant claw of Qingyu swept, the earth wall rises to the net, the water-protecting armor is broken and the blade is hit, and then the wind assists the claws quickly burst out, tearing the 4-person armor, the blood is sprayed like rain, and the iron lens smells scattered and burns the flesh. He turned around, the fire element exploded, the shelf was burned, the crystals were shattered, the blue light was like a fire rushing into the sky, the wall of the fort collapsed, and the gravel fell like a stone. The little boss was defeated, and the remaining 3 knelt down and begged for the sacrificial pie, the leader. I'll give you life. But Qingyu felt confident in his heart, the growing sacrificial pie was like a fire, this is not a murder, it's a shattering pie. He growled, "You Bin's dog, roll." A storm rolled them into the wall, and stormed them, and the first level of the fortress was transformed into ruins. The circle rose, and Hanlon's rough voice was filled with joy, "Boy, super strong." The external firepower is suppressed, and the guards in the southeast are adjusted. Li Na's vines seal the entrance of the 2nd floor, go down quickly. Li Na's connection stormed in, warm as green vines, heart, Qingyu, feel your power, is coming to the peak. But be careful, Yubin is in the core, and the elements are controlled like gods. The second floor is deeper, the air is as tight as a tomb, and the rune wall is flashing. The 7 people from the little boss defeated the party. The frost blade is like a tide, the poisonous shadow is like a fog, and the electric thorn is like a net. Qingyu's giant beast descended the ladder, stepped on the ground with claws, and roared like thunder and opened the poisonous fog. He summoned the water element to protect the body. The waves were like shields and ice blades, and then the firestorm exploded, burning shadows and electric networks, and the heat waves intersected with the electric arc, and the crackling smell spread. The claws were like a mountain collapse, tearing 3 people apart, and the flesh and blood were flying and slipping on the ground. The tail slid the earth wall, smashing the remaining ones. The pillars of the fortress were piled up, and the soil was flying like a sandstorm. The pleasure is coming again. Elemental power destroys everything. The giant body is like a war god. His super strong fighting power makes him feel invincible, and his heart is dismissed. From the weak chicken who knocks on the code to this peak, this is my change. But the turn and break out. The core room is open, the air is twisted like a whirlpool. Yubin appears, the Western-style collar is straightened, the silver ring is complete with 4 colors of light, and the elements around the body are like a crown ring. He sneered, and his voice was like an ice blade. Boy, the shape of a giant beast? Fusion of my ring fragments? Ridiculous. Are you super strong? In front of the origin of the element, like a skeleton. He hooked his fingers, and the 4 elements controlled explosions. The wind, fire, water, earth, and sea, and wind blade cuts the huge beast hair, fire dragon burns claws, water prison limbs, and earth pierces armor. Qingyu roared and fought back, and the stone was manipulated and reversed, striking himself. The heat waves burned the heart, and the pain was like a thrust. His huge body stumbled, his claws grabbed the air, and the broken wall of the fortress could not hurt Yubin at all. The first time I fell like a thunderous blow. The peak of power is powerless, and my heart is collapsed. Mother, sister, city, can I protect it? He knelt on the ground, his giant beast disintegrated. He returned to his human form and gasped, and his clothes were stained with blood. Weakness is always weak. Yubin stepped closer, his ring was pressed on the top, the elementals were tightened like a net, and the air solidified and pierced the lungs. Qingyu reflected in his heart, why did he still fail from escaping from his life to the peak? It is not strength, it is the heart. It also keeps the office workers' fear of not integrating emotional support. Growth and turn are like a steel fire and reeling. No, this failure is a test. The family's faces appeared and Li Na's scars flashed. He gritted his teeth and said, no. I've lost my mind. From the weak chicken to the warrior, this is my way. At the critical moment, Li Na's heart burst out, and the green heat flowed like a rescuer injected. Qingyu. Dad's line, the weakness of the ring is loaded by the fire element. Your fragments can detonate, concentrate your mind, and borrow my vision. A screen was added in the brain, Yuebin's ring gap, the fire rift. Hanlon's voice burst out from the circle and fired, boy, keep it up. We plan for diversity. Ziqing blackened the core power supply. I exploded the east side power generator. Li Na's vines broke through the west wall, and formed a team to fully press, causing the element flow. Ziqing followed and said hurriedly, the power supply is closed, 3-second window. After loading him, the fire element backfires. Zhangli is like a bow and pulling, Yuebin is browsing, the elemental tightness is tight, and the coldness is harsh. But Qingyu stood up, merged the circle with Li Na's green light, and turned backwards. The power of the elemental ring was fully opened. He growled, summoned the firestorm to inject fragments, and the tongue of flame stormed towards Yubin's ring, and burst out. The silver ring crack was like thunder, the fire element backlashed like a volcano spray. Yubin roared back pain, and his body was dim. Impossible, fragments turned back. The prison shattered, the air was hot and waved. Qingyu slapped, claws no, holding the activation device with his palm. The earth element smashed and destroyed, and the runes disintegrated in sparks were 4 times. The climax explodes, the castle is shocking, the elements are like the doomsday, but Qingyu uses Li Na to calm down, and the green vines are like bridges to protect themselves. Hanlon's diversity takes effect, the east side explodes and the fire swells, the west wall vines break like green dragons, and set up guns to fire. Yuben stumbled, his ring shattered and made him vomit blood. Boy, you won this game. But the city has been opened. His figure twisted and he fled into the secret, indicating that he would finally decide. Qingyu gasped and grabbed the remaining chip, and his heart was reborn like a warrior. The reflection of the despair turned into a shield of impulse. Emotional support is like fire. Li Na's connection, Hanlon's plan, and Ziqing's love story made him feel that he is not alone. The collapse of the fortress sounded like thunder. As the dusty soil flew, he closed the entrance and exit, and circled Li Na's voice, "Qingyu, retreat. The climax is in the building, we will break him together." The city's lights flashed forward, and the storm was approaching, but Qingyu's eyes were like a wolf, and the super-strong fire was raging, and the sound of the battle had been knocked. The sound of the spring water exploded like a wild turbulence, and the gravel and mud swelled up a cold touch. Qingyu burst out from the collapsed entrance, and the air in his lungs also brought the earthy and burnt smell of the underground fortress. The morning light of the city was just broken, and the neon lights on the square were weak, reflecting his blood-stained jackets and Li Na's green ring. The dynamic light was as rapid as a heartbeat. Hanlon appeared from the shadows on the east side, and the gun was still squirting. He gasped and patted Qingyu's shoulder. "Boy, the device has been destroyed." But Yuben's old fox escaped and secretly walked straight to the underground lair of the square, his headquarters, the last castle of the elemental plan. We rushed straight to the pressure of the team. Li Na held Qingyu's hand tightly, her eyes flashed under the scars and shared the connection to surround his thoughts like green vines. The truth of Dad is there. On the day Yuben resigned, he started the prototype ring handheld and burned the evidence. But now, we break him. Her voice scattered with the sound, and the green vines extended from her fingertips, whipping in the air like a living whip, sealing the gravel at the slaughter. Qingyu pointed at the head, the heat flow of the heart and the fusion of the debris was still moving, and the heart was as white as the flash. From the alley to the rat, the journey of awakening was full of blood and fire. But the shadow is still there, the office workers' fear of shrinkage, like a thorn stuck in their throat. "I can't stop, my mother's hospital bed and city lights must be protected." Ziqing's voice buzzed in from the circle, and knocked on the brittle sound of the keyboard. "The story is locked. The entrance of the old nest is under the monument on the north side of the square. 30 people guarded the house, and the little boss killed the party. The net is black, and I blocked the retreat. The virus implanted from the southeast export, and the bomb was in remote control. Qingyu, there is an elemental core inside. Yuben will jump into the wall quickly, and the ring power is fully opened. Be careful, the list of ghosts in the political circle is in the core room. If it is exposed, the sarcasm will collapse." The three of them walked to the north, stepping on the moist talc, and the slippery touch mixed with the morning fog. The building was already in trouble, and the guns of the group formed were like thunder and thunder. Ziwei wiped the air with a harsh roar, and Guanwei roared and said, "Head, the old nest can't be kept." Qingyu was surging, and the leopard moved first to explore the way. The black hair melted, the claws grabbed the ground without sound, and the ultrasonic scanned the entrance. The base of the monument cracked and opened the door, and the runes flashed blue light. He growled and smashed it open. The chips were flying like rain. The damp wind surface inside the door was carrying the buzzing of metal and elementals. The old nest is like an underground palace, a stone chamber with 3 layers of tiles. The walls are engraved with runes, and the air is twisted like a heat wave. The guards came, with more than 20 people, and the elemental shields around them were flashed. Fireballs are like stones, water arrows are like rainstorms, earth thorns are like forests, and wind blades are like swords. Qingyu returned to his human form and shouted, "Li Na, the vines seal the side wings. Hanlon, the gun is under the fire." Li Na's green light burst out, the horns jumped like heartbeats, green vines burst out like green dragons, whipping and sealing the 2 sides of the passages, the vines whipping the guards, whipping and cracking the sound of the bones, and the blood sprayed and slipping on the ground. Hanlon shot and shot, and the slammed into a rain, and the broken shield made a crisp sound. "Boy, hinder the core. Let's swing." The battle is like a fire. Qingyu is surging in a hot stream, fusing fragments and connecting Li Na, and the elements in the body are like melting. He imagined the ultimate shape elemental beasts. The body rapidly expands, the muscles are like mountain beads, the hair is like four-colored bulbs, the wind wings are like blades, the fire claws are like lava, the water bulbs are like armor, and the soil tail is like giant bulbs. The world was tilted, and he roared and shook the stone chamber, roaring like thunder and opening the wind blade, and his claws ripped apart the five-person shield in front of him. The fire element burned, the burnt smell of burning skin and flesh spread, and the pain of the guard fell to the ground, and the flesh and blood were flying like rain. Monster! Elemental ball? A earth thorn guard screamed, and the earth wall rose into the road. Exciting, perfect cooperation with the soul. Li Na's vision adds to the sea of brain, like the second two eyes predicted the tillage. She shouted, Qingyu, the water arrow on the left is blind, borrow the green vines to increase the amplitude. The green heat flow was injected, the elemental claws were green flames, tearing the earth walls like paper, the earth blocks shattered and shaking, the water arrows backed and guarded themselves, and slashed their limbs and made a brittle cracking sound. Hanlon gunfire assisted, Ziwei exposed his weakness in the bullet, and the blood flower was released. Fuck well, boy. Open the middle. Qingyu ran wildly, limbs on the ground like an earthquake, his wind wings fan out of air and flowing, chaotic enemy's vision, claws swept like a landslide, tearing apart the 10-man defense lines, fresh blood and elemental light intertwined, and refreshed like electric current to slap the body. From the single attack to the invincible team, he felt the power was like a tide, and each blow was supported by emotions. The core room is close to it, and the elements inside the door are moving like the heart. Yubin appeared, on the high platform, his face was stained with blood, his broken ring was shining with a flash of light, and the four elements around him were like a wild ring. He sneered, and his voice was like a wind blade cut, boy, elemental beast? Fusion of my fragments? Ridiculous. Do you think the device will win? The rogue has been opened, the ghosts in the political world take over, and the city will fall tomorrow. He hooked his fingers and opened the ring to destroy the power. The wind, fire, water, soil, and earth are like the doomsday storm. Fire dragons burn the sky, water ceiling room, soil pierce the ground, and wind blade shadow. The heat waves burn, the cold is biting, and the stone chamber is shaking like a collapse. Fierce resistance to explosion, the Qingyu elemental beast growled on the low roar, and the wind wings blew the fire dragon, backing the heat waves and burning the air, making hissing sounds, but the water prison is like a net cover, and the tiny pieces are crisp. His claws tear the earth into the thorns, the earth blocks slam the wall and blew the breeze, and the wind blade wiped the hair and bleeded, which was as painful as a knife to cut it. The shadows in the heart are falling on, the journey of awakening flashes, the panic of the rats in the alley, the cunning of the fox in the factory, the collapse of the phantoms in the tower, the trial of the flames of the ship. From the weak chicken of the office worker to the strong integration of elements, every step is stepped in blood. But the shadow is like a ghost. After 1,000 defeats, what should I do? My sister's smile is broken. The city lights are burning. Growth and turn like thunder, Li Na's connection explodes, green flows like rescue and fuse into the brain, her thoughts add, Qingyu, come back. It's not weak, it's electric changes. On the day my dad lost his home, I thought the world was over, but climbed out of the sea of fire, and I vowed to protect the lights. The same goes for you, from self-protection to leader, this shadow breaks it. The screen flashes, the warm hug of my mother, the sister's phone laughter, and the neon lights of the city are like stars. Hanlon's rough voice came from the circle, boy, persistence. We held the little boss's death party, Ziqing closed the road. Emotions were like fire, and Qingyu felt repentantly in his heart, yes, from fear to trouble, I am the extraordinary king. The heat flow reverses, the elemental beast's body is bright and the ring fragments are all opened, the origin of the four elements awakens. The refreshing pressure is like a peak, the claws of the Qiu claw summon the firestorm, the burning water silences like a dragon swallowing Yuebin's defense line, the huge soil tail smashes the ground, and the cracks burst out the wind blade. Yubin was stunned, What? The origin is reversed. He fought back, and the ring exploded with the earth waves like a sea, but Qingyu Fengyi borrowed Li Na's green vine, and the wing blade cut open like green fire, and the earth block shattered and flew, which was shocking. The claws were straight to the platform, the fire claws burned Yuebin's shield, the burnt smell of the burnt she fries spread, the water dispelled the backlash of the cold arrow, the refreshing smell was as bright as electricity. With perfect cooperation, the elemental beasts tear apart the enemy, and each hit suppressed Yuebin's attack. The defending party was winged from the side and was whipped by Li Na's vines, and the Hanlon gun was swept with fire, and the blood was filled with four blood. Zicheng assisted in blocking the way out, the circle of rushes was urgent, the southeastern exit exploded. The virus was completely opened, the secret passage collapsed, Yubin had no way to escape. The explosion rose from behind, and the stone block fell like rain, blocking Yubin back. The platform collapsed, Yubin stumbled, the cracks of the ring expanded, the fire element was like a volcano spraying, which retaliated against his arms, and roared and cried out, "Impossible, an inner ghost." Political line. Qingyu's body was on his body, his claws pressed on his chest, and the ground was pressed by the ground force. The wind blade cut the ring, the silver ring shattered like glass, the elemental light disintegrated, and the runes dissipated like smoke. When revealing the truth, Yubin vomited blood and knelt on the ground, his eyes widened. "Boy, you won." "But I heard, the elemental plan is not only a disaster, it is a brainwashing. The ghost in the political circle is the mayor's secret book. He took my props, and when the audience was speaking tomorrow, it will start the crowd's extraordinary riots and overthrow the government." Certification. On the core chip. Li Na impeded, Green Vine held his wrist and shared the video swiping chip. The picture flashed. 5 years ago, the Sea of Fire, Yubin summoned the fire element, burning Li Na's father's data room, traitor, destroyed my brainwashing blue picture. The truth is like a knife, it's not an accident, it's a slumber. Li Na's eyes were damp and her voice was trembling. "Dad. This is the truth. You have destroyed everything." Qingyu growled, the lunar collapsed. "The city is safe, and ordinary people will not fall into trouble." Yubin sneered, the fortress was shocked like thunder, but the crisis was about to resolve. Zicheng darkened the communication between ghosts in the political circle, organized a team to block the building, and the mayor's secret book was arrested. Qingyu returned to his human form, and the elemental beasts faded away. He helped Li Na, and his inner soul transformed into a complete life. From shadow to king, the journey of awakening was full. Hanlon patted his shoulder. "Boy, fucked. But the leader's remaining party is still there, and the storm is still there, but the waves are not yet settled." Under the morning light of the building, the city's movements recovered, but Qingyu's eyes were like new stars, and the fire of his leader was always ignited. Far away, the sirens are intimidated, indicating that the final silence is coming soon. The morning light in the square fell like gold, and the spring water droplets reflected colorful light under the sun, unable to conceal the smell of nitros and the hidden blood in the air. Qingyu helped Li Na to climb out of the collapsed monument ruins. His footsteps still brought the damp and muddy feeling of the underground nest. His clutches were mostly torn and covered in blood, but his eyes were like a new wolf king, sharp and calm. Yubin's body was still lying under the gravel in the core room, and the pieces of the silver ring were scattered all over the ground, like a broken crown. Li Na's green croaker was slightly burning, and in the shared link, her thoughts were like warm green vines. The truth was finally revealed. My father's grievances were washed away, and the sea of fire in my heart was finally lost. "Boy, don't be stunned." Hanlon rushed from the side, and the gun was so hot that it was red. He gasped, and the bruises on his face were particularly eye-catching in the morning light. Yubin fell, but the party dog rushed to jump into the wall. Zicheng said that there was the last wave of guards in the southeast, and it was blown up with elements to blow up the center of the building and cause chaos and violence. The secret book of ghosts in the political world has been captured by the organization, but it is suppressed. The circle of buzzing birds. Zicheng's voice was swift and slang. "Okay. There are more than 10 remaining parties. the leader of the small boss's poisonous thorn, specializing in poison elements, and the bomb is hidden under the bell of the square. I was blocked from the southeast export, but they were crazy and ready to explode. I bombed 2 of them remotely, but I was hand-pressed. Qingyu, you are super strong in shape, and you can fight quickly. Qingyu felt nervous, and his heart was as quiet as a tide, from the panicked rat in the alley to the current extraordinary king, the city, family, and friends. It is all up to me to guard the last connection. Can't let the fire burn the peace. He pointed and tightened Li Na's hand. Li Na, come with me. Your vine helps, I'll come to an end. Li Na smiled, her eyes under the scars were wet and determined. Together. Dad's wishes, the city's lights, we have secured it. The 3 of them rushed to the southeast ringside, stepping on the stone slab and making a rapid sound. The morning wind blew the harbor's moisture, and the low sirens mixed with the sirens in the distance. The edge of the building was already in trouble, and the gun pressure control party that organized the team, the sound of Ziyao was harsh and the blood was slimmer. The party of the poisonous thorns burst out from the secret passage. 15 people, green poisonous fogs, holding flashing popcorns. The poisonous thorns on their heads were a short and fat man with his eyes like a poisonous snake, and his vicious air was swaying under his green robe. The head fell down. Then let's do it together. The thorns exploded and the city remembered the treacherous group. He shook his hands, the poisonous fog was like green dragons spraying, the rotten air hissing, the guards coughed, and the sore smell of blistering skin spread. Crisis explosion, the poisonous thorn presses the crystal, and the buzzes starts. The green light spreads like a thorn, indicating a large range of poisonous storms. Qingyu growled, and the heat flowed like a volcano, fusing the green connection between the fragments and Li Na, and the origin of the elements in the body opened up. It finally changed. The body rapidly expands, stretches to 3 meters high, muscles are like mountain ridges, hairs are like 4-color light wovens, wind wings are like dragon blades, fire claws are like lava, water wings are like sea shields, soil tails are like Mount Tai, top horns are like beasts of speech, roars shake the square, cracks are like snakes rushing out of the ground. The zombie shape is unblocked. The world became low and 3-dimensional, and he felt that power was like the movement of the universe, and every breath filled the source of elements. The refreshing peak feels like a current swelling, from a weak chicken office worker to this divine king, this piercing crushes everything. Monster. Elemental speech says beast. Poisonous Qi widened his eyes, and the poisonous fog was sprayed wildly, but Qingyu's beast body slammed, and the wind wings fanned out like a storm, rolling up the poisonous fog and sucking the party. The green air whipped them themselves like a whip. The skin was rotten and the sore smell was pungent. The guards retreated, and the explosion of the bulb crystal was exposed. His fire claws were blown, and 3 lava claws were burned. The crystals burst and sparked 4 times, and the heat waves burned the air and burst out. Li Na's green vines were like a bridge of help, whipping from the side wings to seal the retreat. The vines slammed and fell down. The bones cracked and hissed, hissing, Qingyu, the main bomb under the bell building. Borrow me into the field and concentrate. Shared links and ads, and the screen appears in Qingyu's brain. Giant crystals are hidden at the base of the bell, and green poisonous veins are like heart. Hanlon gunfire pressure, Ziyan swept the party. Boy, come on. Let's organize a team to cover it. The cool spot of Huali exploded. Qingyu said that the beast ran wildly, the giant earth tail smashed the ground, cracked the thorns, and fell 5 people. Their claws were like a mountain collapse, tearing the shield and blood sprayed, and the iron lens smelled like a poisonous rot. He roared and summoned the ultimate elemental storm. The origin of the ring was fully opened. The 4-colored lights gather around the body, and the wind, fire, water and soil are like whirlpools, turning into storms. The fire dragon rolls up the wind and burns poison, the water waves scatter the road, and the wind blades cut the crystals. The air in the square was twisted, and the wind was like a giant beast devouring the enemy's camp. The party screamed everywhere, was caught in the center, and the poisonous thorns were turned back by the poisonous blade, but was retaliated by the wind, burned and destroyed by the green robe, and fell to the ground. Impossible, a blow, a decisive force. Finally, The green light burst out at the top of the horn of Qingyu's beast, and the storm hit the base of the bell building with the increase of Li Na's vines. The giant crystal stone exploded like thunder, the green poison disintegrated like smoke, the fragments fell like rain, and the harmless light dissipated into the morning sky. The whole party was filled with the shaking of the stadium, and the storm of the stadium knelt down and vomited blood. The leader, the stolen, was broken. Qingyu held him down, the elemental light faded, and he returned to his human form to breathe. It's over. The city is safe, and ordinary people will not fall. The stadium broke through, and the stadium returned to its calmness, and the sound of the water was gurgling like a gaze. On the team, the sirens were snatched, and the mayor's secretary was escorted, and the evidence was uploaded to the entire network. Politicians were exposed, and the group was scattered. Ziqing jumped off the communication car, her purple hair flew in a roar, hugged Qingyu and laughed, "Brother, super magic." The Love Network all commended me and promoted me to the deputy head. Hanlon wiped his gun and smiled roughly, "Old man, this battle was worth it before I retire." Qingyu, from the newcomer to the king, you are a legend. Li Na leaned on Qingyu's shoulder, green and warm, she whispered, "Dad's truth is worthy of your wish." That night, Yubin whispered his father's data and destroyed his family. But now, Jingyi is back. Qingyu, thank you, not only your partner, but my everything. Her eyes were wet, and in the shared connection, the emotions were like a green vine deep root, from revenge girl to love. This is her fullness. Qingyu hugged her, and her heart was as unrestrained as a warm current, from the loser who worked overtime to the king of extraordinary power, protecting her mother's medicine, her sister's campus, and the lights in the city. This sense of accomplishment was like a sensation of the sun. Growth is not strength, it is this sacredness. As the sun sets, the city returns to peace, the neon lights are like a galaxy, and passers-by don't think the storm last night. In the hospital, Qingyu held his mother's hand, and she smiled with a white face, "Son, you've lost weight. I heard that the city has caught a bad egg. Are you doing the best?" He smiled, "Mom, just an ordinary office worker, who is typing the code." The younger sister hugged her, "Brother, hero. Our lights will always be bright." The organization rebuilds the balance, and Hanlon asked. Ziqing was in charge of the Love Network, Li Na and Qingyu stood shoulder to shoulder, and exchanged croaking like a wedding. In the night, they strolled on the harbor, and the waves hit the shore were like heartbeats. Qingyu said in a humble voice, "Li Na, will you still have any adventure in the future? There will always be a wave of strange communities." She leaned against his chest, and the green vine pointed lightly, "With you, there will be." Friendship is like the guns of Hanlon, love is like our connection, heroes change. From weak chicken to king, we guard this city together. The wind blows the scent, the lights reflect the water, and the outlook is like the stars. The city is peaceful, the warmth of heroes will never end.